side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Peekaboo, I see you, peekaboo, I see you. Looking at me, looking at you. Hold up, where you going? What you doing? Who you seeing? What you need? What you want? I said, without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. One time from side to side.
Jackie Love getting in range. Deadly Flourish connects the flash from Kanavi.
Whoa.
And Dream against First Blood. Beautiful combination.
Interruption goes on to one extent, but he's able to cleanse out of it. Equalizer goes on to the main carries and now fight.
Three-man taunt.
Three-man taunt from Hoya. Dro's already down, but look at Haichao with the Shurima shuffle. Is not able to take anybody down just yet, but Fodic will do so himself.
Away, but JJ doesn't really have an exit. JJ flashing is still tied. Jackie Love starting with a 2-0 now. Here comes Nalo though, chasing down Jackie Love. The Flame Spitter doing work. That's another big pulverize coming in, but Mako will bite the dust as well. And Top Esports, they are hungry for blood. They're welcoming this game. He wants to crash down and he gets it over the wall. Another one comes through. Kanavi is taking all their souls for forfeit. Jackie Love gonna find even more. And my God, are we starting off with a bang?
2v5, who's gonna find the pick first? Dro just trying to clear the wave potentially. A nice cast comes through from Hoya, and that's what I'm Thunder talking about, baby. Upset secured over LNG as they advance to the DEMACIA Cup semifinals.
You heard it here first, folks. That's what I'm Thunder talking about. The storm of Thunder Talk Gaming has taken completely over the DEMACIA Cup as one of the unexpected surprises here. But before we get further into today's semifinal matchup, just want to give some proper introductions. I'm Raafaa here on the LPL English broadcast. Next to me, my boy DEMACIA AlkBattery Toledo brother. The Alpha duo is back together again. Man, it's gonna be a hell of a time tonight, brother.
For sure, I'm looking to have some fun, especially with a really great semifinals ahead of us. One that I think if at the beginning of the tournament you said this was going to be a matchup, I think everybody except Kelsey Moser would have said you're crazy for predicting that one. But we've got a great one, especially with I think the momentum that you were just talking about, Thunder Talk.
That's right. Going over the past 8 days of competition here, for those that are just tuning in now, well, you're gonna have to go back through some VODs. You know, we'll pick out some highlights for you, maybe in the chat, you know, from our other lovely LPL English staff members. They'll tell you which games are some, you know, particular favorites of ours. But we've had 8 days of competition so far. It started off with a group stage round where there were 4 groups total, and then from each of those groups, one team emerged victorious. And one of those teams is here in the semifinal with Thunder Talk emerging from Group C that had a very new JDG Gaming, but a lot of people were expecting going to be victorious from that group, and they've made it all the way here to the semifinal stage, just recently taking down LNG, whereas on the other side of the semifinal matchup here, DEMACIA, it is Top Esports, who, how would you say their matchup against IG?
Free. It was free. It was very free. If there's ever a quarterfinals, if everybody in the chat is saying, guys, I only have time to watch a single series from the bracket stage, it's TES IG. I'm sorry. We had some great games on some other series. Yesterday's semifinals was a lot of fun with the guys we had on the show, especially with the gameplay. But that IG TES game one is just legendary. It's too much fun. It's kind of addictive in that manner. So yeah, that game was very free. And TES is one of the teams that also got a free bye. They didn't have to play in the group stage. They were automatically slotted in as representative here in the top 4 or top 8 for the bracket stage. So we haven't seen a ton of them. We only have those 2 games. But TT, like you were saying, we have a lot of momentum behind them coming in 3-0 from their group. They also have the fact that they took some really long games versus LNG. So I think this is going to be a pretty fun one, especially when we have the fact that TES, you have this roster, right? Like 369 Kanavi, you're bringing in new pieces with Kanavi and Crisp. I think with all of the players that they have, this is going to be looking and should be a tough matchup for Thunder Talk Gaming.
Sure. And for those that are not familiar with this new Thunder Talk Gaming roster, we're gonna take a look at what they are working with in this tournament, as there were some changes during the offseason after the conclusion of Worlds and going into the spring 2025 season. At the end of summer split, we had UCal, who was that long-tenured mid laner for Thunder Talk Gaming for so long, being replaced by Sitab. But now, Feather, even though coming in very recently for Thunder Talk at the, near the tail end of summer split, this is one of the other players that, even though, yes, it is still shared over from Summer Split. This is still a player that feels somewhat new to the roster, but it's still one of those players that we're looking at as a potential rising star who can help further complement 1xN, who has been putting in a lot of work already in this tournament for DEMACIA Cup.
For sure. Thunder Talk has a lot of rising stars alongside a contingent of the roster that has been here for a long time. Hoya and Beishuan have been really big, I think, contributors to the project over the last couple of years that they've been together. So we're looking forward to what this new bottom lane or I guess new-ish bottom lane with 1xN and Feather being a little bit newer, like you were saying, 1xN being a lot more exciting, and it seems like all of Thunder Talk are really starting to get behind this guy. And the big change, like you were saying, Yukal for Seitab. Yukal, I think, very beloved as his time in the LPL came to a close. Hopefully we get to see him again. He was one of my most favorite players coming into the league. And Seitab seems so far to have brought a little bit more consistency, where Yukal, I think, had some really high highs and some low lows, unfortunately, during the season. So I'm looking forward to what this TT roster can do going forward. And if they can potentially make it over to the Grand Finals, I think we have a really exciting season with a brand new LPL format on the horizon.
Yeah, and for Thunder Talk Gaming, they've already surprised a lot of us in their group stage performance and their relative upset over LNG in the quarterfinal stage. But I don't think it's any secret that Top Esports is going to be their toughest opponent yet, especially for 1xN. You know, he's had his fair share of opponents in the bot lane. You're now going up against Jackie Love on the other side of Top Esports, and this is probably one of the most legendary, if not the most legendary AD carry of this generation of LPL players right now.
He's one of those players that, alongside that generational 2018 IG roster, that brought about a lot of players that just wanted to play League similar to them, right? We were talking, I think, before on the broadcast a couple days ago that there's a brand of top laners that just wanted to play like the Shy. There are players like Jackie Love who are so coveted and so beloved by the Chinese community from solo queue that they want to play like Jackie Love. They want to be like him, and it's also not a bad looking dude, so not hard to see why. This team is supposedly supposed to try to make a really big push for a championship run, and while DEMACIA Cup is mostly a precursor for the next upcoming year to generate some hype and see how these teams are going to be able to play, I think adding someone like Kanavi to the roster, who finally leaving JDG after all those years, I just think that this should be a roster that Top should be trying to contend yet again as a top 2, a top 3 here in the region, as they have been for the past year and a half, 2 years. But I really want to see them make that push for a championship. I think they really want a trophy now that they have all these players, and specifically Cream in that mid lane, a player that has been rising through the ranks in mid lane.
I mean, for Top Esports, I think the last time they won an LPL championship was, what, 2020, if I'm not mistaken? So
yes, it was summer, so yeah.
So summer 2020, man, for Top Esports, grabbing someone like Kanavi is probably got to be one of the highest premium picks that you can get in the off season. And considering that Kanavi's still coming off a fairly powerful performance with JDG, despite, JDG's own shortcomings as a team, not being one of the LPL squads that made it to Worlds this recent year. So Kanavi in a whole new environment, and he has not missed a beat so far. I mean, we talked about the IG series being, a little free for Top Esports.
Very.
But, I going into that quarterfinal, I did not imagine that it was going to swing that way. But, level 1, you give a Kanavi Viego multiple resets. I mean, that is a hell of a way to just get the snowball rolling. And of course, game 2, a little bit more competitive for the side of IG, but still, it seems like once Kanavi gets a lead, he has a full lockdown of how the map should play out. And we have just not seen a jungler yet being able to challenge him so far in DEMACIA Cup.
I will say there's a bit of an asterisk to that. Sample size is disgustingly low.
True. One series.
TES have only played 2 games. It was the best of 3 for all of our quarterfinals. Obviously, again, like we said, they were a team that was immediately slotted into the top 8 bracket, so they didn't have to play in those group stages. We have a much longer series, I think, for the side of Thunder Talk, who have played 6 games in total, so 3 times the amount of games. The sample size is going crazy here. We have a lot here, and I mean, you come into this tournament and you're thinking of all of the really powerful rosters already, some of them already being in the group stage gone. There was the JDG roster, like you were mentioning, Scout, Gala, you also have
Shun.
Swin. So I think with that roster falling to TT, that was some pretty big question marks as to how much damage this ThunderTalk roster could do. You also have the IG roster, like you were just mentioning, losing out in quarterfinals to TES. Weibo, who just lost yesterday to Anyone's Legends. A lot of the big tournament favorites are already gone. So this DEMACIA Cup already feels mostly like a who can really take the cup? We have AL, who kind of rocked in with their squad, I think with some question marks as to how this was going to work with their new pieces around topside. Now we have TT as a potential contender as well, although we have to be honest with ourselves, as hype as it would be for Thunder Talkers to come on through, pull out a sweep or pull out a victory versus TES on the whole series, we got to be real with ourselves. We got to be honest with the viewers. TES should be looking to win this series pretty handily as well.
No notes on that one, Mr. Dimitri. For Thunder Talk, this could be the end of the road for them, as Top Esports is just a hell of a mountain to overcome. But it would be that more impressive if they were to achieve it today. And I think if we have to really focus on the conversation of where Thunder Talk Gaming can find those advantages, like we mentioned earlier, the way that 1xN has been a surprisingly impressive, factor in a lot of their performances throughout the group stage and then in the series against LNG. So if H1 can continue, putting pressure and resources around that bottom side, despite, having a lot of natural synergy with Hoya over the years, I think that is a winning combo. And if you can somehow find a way to shut down Jackie Love, that is one of the prime carries from Top Esports completely out of the picture.
We're going into the series with the fact that this is going to be one of our first best of fives for both of these teams coming into the new year with their new rosters. We also have Hard Fearless as well for everybody who's been joining us throughout the entire stream or the tournament so far. We're going to have champions that once they're picked, neither team can try to use them, which is really big when you think about the four most powerful champions currently. You have, or at least most coveted picks, you have the Ambessa, you have Rumble right now, Victor, and Skarner. So a couple of laners as well as our junglers, but those big four have been so important to so many teams' success here in the tournament. And in a Fearless draft, I want to see how far we're going to get from both of these two teams, because we've seen Ambessa from TT. Obviously, for TS, they haven't really been able to flex their muscles in terms of some of the new champions that are aboard. But I really want to see how these champions get through, especially for someone like 369, who I think throughout the years has kind of had those back and forth between what I think the public community sentiment is like, oh, he's a really great carry player, but he kind of sucks on tanks. And then he plays on GDG, and we're like, okay, well, he's a great tank player, but the carries are just not there. And I think he's been trying to balance that out. Part of that is also the introduction of Cassante to League of Legends.
True.
But for this upcoming year, I'm looking forward to how 369 can continue to build on his legacy, especially as a player who has, I think, had some really great results, just international and in the domestic region.
And it's definitely nice for him to be reunited with Kanavi after their, brief stint and tenure together on JDG for some time before Flandre came in, obviously this most recent year. For Top Esports, like you said, the sample size for this tournament is very low because they've only played one quarterfinal and it was a 2-0 sweep. So for the benefit of Top Esports, there's not a lot of, data for Thunder Talk to really glean from, to get insights from. So they're going to really have to dig deep. And whereas for Top Esports, if things are swinging in Thunder Talk's favor, that's when Top Esports can get really scary, even if they're, a game behind or 2 games in the hole. Because then Top Esports, we're going to see, what have they been cooking during the offseason? What has been going on in scrims while Thunder Talk has been, fighting for their lives throughout the rest of the DEMACIA Cup in the early stages.
Let's go! Seteb already has more fans than LPL! That's one of the great parts of the watching LPL and watching LCK throughout the years is how many fan signs are made. Obviously, in our own domestic region, North America, we have a trouble sometimes of getting a couple of fan signs out, but it's been great to see, and I'm already excited. For everybody who's also joining us, who's maybe unaware, for a portion of LPL this year coming into the season, we are going to be having side selects be decided by a 1v1. Before, towards the beginning of our quarterfinals, it was a lot of the top laners, but it seems like now we're getting a bit more of a branch out. In that is going to be the two mid laners for these two teams, as Cream and Sitab are going to be facing off against each other. Big change already for me. There is no Draven, so we cannot get those Draven mirror matches.
It's been a little too much Draven, you know. One or two Draven 1v1s is pretty hype, but then once it becomes the most popular to go a matchup, then, you know, we appreciate a little variety. And right now, you know, Caitlyn doesn't necessarily scream the most hype, you know, laning prowess, and Cream thought that maybe Sitab will want to dance a little, but you know, playing Yasuo, at least you have wind wall, I guess. But this is so brutal. I mean, any melee champion trying to play into a 650 range character, you are just asking to get poked and harassed out of lane.
So it's so funny because in years past, we talk about Cream, he's been more of the melee assassins. I think a lot of those are just the Silas and Akali for such a long time when we saw him on OMG. So now that he's on the Yasuo, he is 2 and 3, you know, over the past couple of years in his career on the champion. But having this available, Yasuo has more access, like level 1 and level 2, to being able to hit the wave and kind of, I think, move around and kind of get around on someone like Caitlyn. That level 1 is going to be really tough, though. And I know yesterday they were talking, like, we could see a Caitlyn game, but without any support, I think maybe it gets a little tricky. The 1v1 gets really potent for Yasuo once he hits that level 2 mark, though.
Being able to at least gap close against the Caitlyn, just dashing through the minion wave. So it'll just come down to how patient Cream is and choosing those windows, because, you know, I definitely am in the same boat with you. There is always a way for Yasuo to overcome the range disadvantage, but personally, in my experience, playing against Caitlyn in a solo lane, no jungle assistance whatsoever, that is, I literally just want to drag my nails against the chalkboard instead. that sounds like a more pleasant experience than just having to solo lane against the Caitlyn by myself.
That sounds extremely miserable. You can't even, like, blame your jungler this time. And I know you as a jungler, you probably do that. I would, however. And Mark, I know we're having a little bit of fun. We have some time before the 1v1 starts, and then also the game kind of gets in. I think Yanni's gunning for your spot on the broadcast. You know, as a fan project, there's not a lot of, you know, this is all volunteer for everybody at home.
What does this mean?
Everybody who's so far been able to do, but Yanni, you know, we just activated our Twitch affiliate. We were able to, you know, finally get subs, able to, you know, generate monetization for the channel. I see, and I haven't been checking, so maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Yanni's already gifted some subs. I don't see anything coming.
Oh my god!
I don't put any pressure on you, but as a product lead here, it feels good to see other people from the project helping contribute to the community, especially the English
crazy.
That has had to have a fan, you know, a new fan broadcast experience as we're bringing here for them. So
I think it's
I don't put any pressure on you.
You know, very tactful of the product lead to, you know, inspire healthy competition between, you know, staff members and how much money I can give back to the product. That is W
How
marketing
much money
right
can you
there.
give us before we pay you? That's where we're at right now.
Well, I'll keep it in mind. But, you know, nice thing is, Twitch subs 25% off right now. So, you know, if you're watching on YouTube and you want to support the project, you know, keep watching the broadcast. But if you want to go the extra mile and, you know, help this awesome, you know, product that is being put forward by a passionate and very committed and dedicated team, you know, go over to twitch.tv/LPL English, give a good old Twitch sub, and hope you enjoy the show. As
Oh, wait,
any
we can't use Prime anymore. I forgot they got rid of Prime as a feature. My fault, gang.
Darn. Well, thankfully we got the 25% off.
True.
We got that to work with. 1v1, engage. Satab already has control of that lane bush, and here begins the misery. Hang on. Oh my god, Cream is already getting some love taps in there, and then on his way out, it's the headshot to the face.
Okay, so Setup actually has gone for a bit of more of a defensive build. Doesn't have the fleet footwork or the grass that we've been seeing in a lot of the range matchups, but has barrier exhaust. The meta so far has really been, at the very least, Ignite. A lot of players have been taking exhaust as well, so Setab taking early control of the minion wave. Although, I just don't think it's going to matter. You see this huge minion wave coming back. Cream's going to pick this up. He's probably just going to all in on level 2 once the wave is in front of his turret.
And just
if
pray
we
for
see
the
a
best.
100 CS countdown, I can't believe Caitlyn Yasuo is the one that we brought it to, and not the Corki versus Heimerdinger one.
True. Man, Satab just hit level 3, and Cream is now finally hitting level 2. It's pretty brutal. I like the note, though, that Satab did not go for fleet or grass for the nose picker build, as our friend Jeff would call it.
Yep.
But I wonder if the PTA is just a reaction to, just in case Cream jumps on him, he has some offensive capabilities to go for a very devastating burst trade.
I'm just trying to think of what other Caitlyn rune he would go, because Electrocute sounds really cringe.
Yeah.
Setab's already taken a recall. He's going to wait for the wave to bounce back to him.
You're not going first strike either.
Yeah, you're not going first strike. So, yeah, I mean, PTA's fun. He's probably going to at least get 3 auto attacks in a fight. If he doesn't, then we can do the point and laugh emote. But I don't know. This is my first time talking about these 1v1s, and with no jungler assistance, with like no other like additions to it, I kind of want to just see brawling. Like I enjoyed watching our Draven versus Varus. Wait a minute, Cream.
Oh, really nice. Hey, he hit level 4, and with the wind wall, he blocks a little bit of the damage from Satab, but on the way out, once again, as we talked about, that range advantage gives Satab just a little bit of additional harass potential. But Cream has a big wave that is stacking up, and for Caitlyn, wave clear, not the most potent on this champion, so Cream has a chance to, I guess, stack this big wave, get a decent reset in, should not be in any danger whatsoever.
Thank you to you over on Twitter for kind of showing some of the behind the scenes. They've been a really great resource when it comes to talking about LPL. I'm going to probably hold this as Cream's probably going to be looking to go in. Oh, that's one auto miss through the wind vault. I want to talk about the 1v1s because part of these is you have everybody kind of like standing behind you or your fellow teammates kind of looking over, and I don't think it was Flandra, but I think it was another player that was talking about how during the 1v1 my coach is literally talking to me and trying to like not micromanage, but like talk to him about the game and like things he should be doing and thinking about during the 1v1. So part of this is the fun. You can kind of see it in the player camps from Cream, and especially in the previous 1v1s. This part of the series, when you're doing this 1v1 for side select, is a lot of fun for these guys, because they're literally just like, how can I min-max? What are like these dirty little cheese tricks that we can go for? And especially when you have all your friends or your fellow teammates behind you, it can be really, really, I guess the word is like, enriching. I don't know what word I would want to use for this one. It's just like you have so much like people behind you talking, and you're like, do I need to perform?
Yeah, I mean, something that's super enriching for me is just watching Cream actually navigate this 1v1 way better than I had expectations for. I would think that Caitlyn would just be able to put Yasuo into the dirt, but there's just been so many micro interactions that Cream is strangely very well aware of, which tells me either he has practiced this Yasuo Caitlyn 1v1 a lot, or he's just that damn intuitive with this champion at this point in his career. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Cream is the freaking GOAT, man. I mean,
yeah,
he was able to save a buy. Yeah, like the fact that he lasted 2 whole backs compared to Satab and saved up all that money. Now he has tier 2 boots, which is great for Yasuo and his cooldown on his Q. And just, I mean, for Cream, maybe Dimitri, Yasuo can take this one. No.
Oh, yes. Okay, I thought you were saying me, bro. I thought you were like, oh, maybe we could try to pick up some Yasuo for you, Dimitri. I'm like, no. I used to play this champion, but not anymore. I hate this champion playing this. So, Yasuo has some ways being interact with you know, early like some ranged champions, especially like mages typically, but early on we're probably not. The thing I hate about Caitlyn is that like you probably lose a lot of 6 matchups, especially level 6 versus Yasuo. Like, he just has so much all-in. He has the grasp, which he's able to use. Great job of playing around his wind wall here.
He's going for it. Last breath already used. Satab has not pulled the trigger on his exhaust until just now. He still has a barrier waiting until the very last moment, but it gets clipped by the Stornado! And Cream is victorious in the 1v1. I still can't believe that just happened, but Cream is just the GOAT.
Let's go. Let's go, Cream. Look, Rising, you know, he's been on the roster for a little bit now. One of the incoming players from last year's, or this year's TES roster. And great job to take it over. Generational talent, Setab, in this 1v1 so early on. For a side select, we'll see what TES is going to select. I think when we look at some of these teams that we're really excited for and teams that are expected favorites for the tournament, it is interesting to see their priorities as to whether or not they love the side select. So last time it was TES with side select versus IG. They picked blue side. I imagine that won't be changing all that much considering the Rumble champion, like we were saying earlier, very broken. The DEMACIA champion, I think in the right hands can be very broken. We'll see if either 369 or Cream are going to be wanting to pick that up. Although Cream, I think Cream had a really boring series in the last time around. Like, it's not his fault that level 1, his AD and his jungler start off with 3 and 4 kills.
He's playing Corki too, not the
he's
most,
playing Corki.
like,
he had to play like the most real game of League of Legends that his other 4 teammates just didn't have to deal with. And then he had to play Victor in game 2, which is like, sure, you're playing a rework champion that's pretty broken. So I'm excited to see if Cream gets to have a little bit more fun this time. Now that he's got the 1v1, maybe you can kind of like beg and plead to your coach, like, please, I want a side select.
Coach, I just beat Caitlyn in a 1v1 with Yasuo. Please put trust in me. I can carry with this champion, man. Let me Keyblade Flash on these kids. Let me style on them one time.
I want to play Akali one game. We've gotten some Akali games, so you know if he can kind of work the magic, work some Cream magic, maybe we get to see him on Akali or Sylas.
Yep. Yeah. No, I would be so down. All the legends I've heard about Cream's melee assassin play, that would be an absolute treat, especially for this holiday season. You know, even though, you know, Christmas has come and gone, I think the beautiful thing about the holiday season is that, you know, good gifts are always being given, you know, and maybe Top Esports can give that special gift to Cream and let him absolutely pop off on one of the signature champions. But I want to, you know, take a trip down the quarterfinal stage and kind of review for our audience some of those picks to look out for. You already mentioned one of them. Rumble was a big highlight for the side of Top Esports, and then the remaining things that slid their way were the Varus, which between Varus and Ashe are probably the most highly sought out marksman in, you know, this patch right now. Kalista's probably being the other favorite, which, you know, credit to Top Esports, they're taking off the table away from Thunder Talk.
For sure. We'll see Rumble, Skarner banned, as well as Aurora. Aurora was a champion that we kind of got to see in the second series, although IG were the ones to take it up. We'll see what their priority is. Vi, something I think is maybe not super heads up from what we've been talking about, but when you're thinking about champions that someone like Bishan has found success previously and even in this tournament, I think it's a great takeaway. Although you have to think about what you're giving up. The Skarner's already gone. You could be potentially giving up Victor and Ashe, which I think you're maybe fine with if you do have the Vi. You have to start thinking of also support matchups as well. So Renata is going to be a really big one for me, as it's been a pairing that we've seen 1xN and Feather play before. It was the Varus and Renata previously, but I think with an Ashe, you could take a really, really strong 2v2 in that manner and also deny Crisp.
And for Thunder Talk, they're just going to go ahead and secure a solid form of double initiation. Not only the Ashe we already predicted, but, you know, with a couple of junglers already taken off the table in the Poppy and the Skarner, Sejuani is one of the next best choices that you can make, considering that Vi has already been secured by Top Esports. And then, and as you mentioned before with 369, the classic Asante, you know, very strong blind pick for the top side of the field, and Jackie Love will get that Varus once again, just like in Game 1 against IG. And for Thunder Talk, they have an option, and it looks like they already made that choice to go ahead and secure a support choice for themselves. So now Top Esports, there's a couple things that you can, you know, mention here, Dimitri. One, you have support counter pick option.
Yes.
And you have a lot of mid laners to choose from outside of Aurora and Galio. Maybe not so much, but still, it still feels like there are many powerful mid lane champions on the table.
Yeah, and when we look at top lane, we're talking about, like you're saying, the Cassante. Already TT or for TES, sorry, they are trying to start focusing. They're getting rid of the Mbessa. Interesting that they see the Mbessa as being a little bit more problematic for them, as I would imagine that they would probably want to start getting rid of some of the more annoying tank matchups that Hoya tends to play. We saw his Gragas throughout this tournament. We've also seen him pick up the Galio as well in the top lane, the Udyr. So a couple of champions that I would be considering if I was TES. And for TT, I think if you already have kind of set up, you've got your bottom lane, you've picked up your jungler here. Obviously, you're going to need a little bit more damage, and my eyes are starting to look towards Yone potentially in the mid lane here, although you're looking at where is your AP source going to be going for. We don't have Victor already here in the last phase of the draft. I think while I would prefer to give Setab counterpick in this sense, I think you might be putting yourself in a bit of a hole when it comes to damage if you're not going to be able to pick up Victor here.
It's up to Thunder Talk to make that call, and they're going to go with giving Setab absolute certainty of what he is going to have to face up against before locking in a champion of his choice. The Jax, while not necessarily a strong source of AoE damage, nor a, you know, solid front line like the Cassante, this is a big split push threat. And anytime you do have something like the Sejuani, it does make those ganks on the top side a lot more reliable. Playing for top side does become a little more viable for the side of Thunder Talk if they want to change things up a bit, which, you know, does counteract what we were expecting might be a game plan from Thunder Talk, putting a lot more focus on the bottom side. But, you know, if you are going to play away from a bottom lane, you can play away from that Ashe, since she will still give so much utility for the entire map, I should say, even if, you know, you're not playing around her.
Rafa, we've got a Akali for Cream!
Oh my god, let's go!
Let's go! I'm so excited!
That's all it takes. Win a 1v1 as Yasuo, and you get your free melee assassin pass.
Yes, yes. We'll see what the response is going to be. Orianna's taken off the table. You also have the Galio gone. Setab might be looking for Yone, like we were kind of mentioning earlier. You also have the Corki, but my eyes are going to be on this Akali. I think Akali might have a bit of an issue in this game where she's going to have to run into an Ashe and a Jax in a side lane. That might become a bit of a problem later. It's going to be the LeBlanc here for Setab, trying to pick up a little bit from Xiaohu yesterday, who unfortunately didn't take the win with that game. But look, if there's ever a time for, especially in a best-of-5, full fearless, you do have to start thinking about champion economy as you go further in a series, right? There's champions you're no longer going to be having access to. TES are on the verge. If they do win this game, you're thinking, okay, we've won on Cassante. We've also taken away Vi, which is a really credible threat for someone like Beishuan. And now they also have Varus. I think if you can win this as TT, not only is it the upset in terms of the matchup, when we're talking about how strong TS should be coming into the series, but they've, I think, lost a lot of really powerful champions that should be giving them an edge here in the game.
Yeah. And, you know, one way you can disrupt a very, you know, cookie-cutter composition like Top Esports have drafted for themselves is introducing a little volatility with something like the LeBlanc. You know, it's not necessarily about winning the matchup against the Akali, but it's going to be about being a, you know, flank threat for this Varus later on. You know, one of the big things that, you know, before this LeBlanc was locked in, there's not many reliable ways to get on top of the back line as we get further and further into the late game. But if you have a LeBlanc waiting in the shadows and the fight breaks out and Varus is trying to choose his moments to, you know, fire piercing arrows, oh, what is that? LeBlanc over the wall? I'm dead. You know, 100-0, level 16 LeBlanc one-shots you, and suddenly your ability to poke and siege out the window, and then Top Esports have to fall back on the retreat. And then if this LeBlanc actually gets ahead, now you have a 1-3-1 split push setup for ThunderTalk, and it's a way to disrupt something that top esports have, which is more reliant on grouping up as a death ball and trying to 5v5.
For TT, it's going to be very important for them to secure those early grubs. You have a team that has a Jax and this LeBlanc. We want to see them on sides, collapse inwards towards objective, in towards the mid lane, where, like you were just saying, for TES, you have a really great front line that can build out for someone like Jackie Love. Seems like he is going for the on-hit build this time around. I think I personally would have preferred for something more of a poke build. I don't think you're going to have time to be able to auto-attack someone like a Jax, someone like an Ashe or a LeBlanc. Although, I will say, this champion in Varus is very flexible with what keystone he's allowed to go for, so still has options to be able to kind of go for whichever kind of modality of AD threat.
I'll say this, though, Dimitri. If Jackie Love does fully commit to an auto-attack reliant build, and he survives, and he absolutely pops off with it, then he's just him. He's just him. He's just absolutely him.
Jackie Love has been him for a really long time. Results may vary. Looks like they're going for a really strong level 1. I was wondering if you were going to get lane swaps, as that has been something that's been popping up more and more as we get through this tournament, but seems like they're just kind of putting a lot of effort into matching. Ooh, already by going for this level 1 invade, they got to find where TES were starting, and now they get to forcibly put the Ashe and Renata into this 2v2. Looking forward to see what we get from both of our junglers here, as Bishwan's already splitting open the map. Jackie Love taken really low and missing a lot of this experience. Great job so far from Hoya and 1xN.
And surprisingly, the Jax in a 2v2 against something like a Leona works so well because your Counter-Strike can actually block the Shielded Daybreak from the Leona. So the one piece of CC that you might have to try and buy space for your AD carry, not even in the picture here. And so ThunderTalk somehow, even though this is not actually Jax support, it does feel like Jax support alongside Ashe for the first couple of minutes before eventually they do rotate Hoya out of this lane so that he can start, picking up solo XP and gold for himself.
Yeah, once this wave crashes, Hoya's probably just gonna look for a TP. Yeah, so he's gonna be able to catch this wave. It's really important that he does get this, and he's not only alive, but he's able to survive. Kanavi's made his way down here. Feather actually, instead of finishing, moving all the way down, says, look, Hoya's probably safe, has the leap strike, also has his flash still. I'm going to take my recall, I'm going to try and reset at a pretty similar timer to my AD carry, and make sure that we have our 2v2 in line to be able to play for the top side of the map here. So, I mean, it's a great read coming out from TT. It lets them continue to apply pressure on the top side here. And again, it's all about that timer. That timer in 2.5 minutes for those grubs is what I'm looking for TT to kind of push forward that win condition that we set for them through draft.
Right, and, for ThunderTalk's credit, we're only 3.5 minutes in, so it's nothing massively monumental has been, gained an advantage for ThunderTalk, but, a couple things that they've already started attacking that we noted as big win conditions and big variables for this top esports roster, put Jackie Love on the back foot, put Kanavi on the back foot. The fact that Kanavi doesn't get an immediate advantage because he's forced to another side of the map and a delayed start allows Beichuan to have this opportunity to be the first one impacting the side lanes.
Unless he's ganking his bottom lane, I mean, you can kind of attest to this as a jungler. If you're playing Vi this game, this is miserable to gank. Like, I'm ganking for Cassante. I'm ganking a LeBlanc, one of the worst champions every jungler likes to complain about when you talk about the mid lane matchup. So, not surprised to see Kanavi. It's going to be on him to be really creative with his pathing, not only to avoid vision from the enemy team, obviously, but I want to see how he's able to impact the map, not necessarily through going through lanes, but kind of influencing his own role and how he's able to pick up jungle camps and pick up resources around the map. Because again, we're looking at this TT roster to really focus on the top side of the map and get them this Herald. But you see they're with them continuing the swap, they're really trying to index, I think, with Kanavi also ending up on the top side of the map to look for something here.
Beichuan is just going to get a little love tap onto Crisp and Jackie Love. Feather and 1xN a little too far away to really make anything out of that gank, but, Beichuan had no camps on the top side, no camps on the bottom side of the map either, so no real, other thing that he could really take his time doing, so just gets a little bit of damage to see if Feather and 1xN can find lethal here. It does call Kanavi over to the top side, and as you mentioned, I don't think ThunderTalk saw him at all since he was completely surrounded in fog, and I think really the only thing you can do as Kanavi with this map state until you hit level 6, just keep tabs on where the Sejuani is at all times and hope that your laners do not die solo.
He's just covering, right? Like that was the whole game plan for him. And
Yeah.
Beishwan, while he didn't have any camps during the time, I think it's fine for him to look for a gank. He is kind of flipping his pathing just a little bit. You already see he started on his Gromp this time around, moving back up. He's going to get his respawn Raptors as well as those Grubs. And you see Hoya here, despite not having the teleport anymore, already moving through mid. We have 10 seconds before these Grubs, and we have this wave crashing in for TT. This is going to be them starting this up. Now for TES, as a response, this should be them trying to either look for something in mid lane, either getting Cream a better recall or trying to just protect him on his mid wave, or them even just trading the Dragon, which now that 369 is coming back out from a reset, I think maybe that's going to be their option here, as I don't think there's going to be too many plays. Kanavi's on the bottom side of the map. We've now invested the TP from 369. Looks like after this play, they're just going to reset, go towards the bottom lane, and see if they can pick up any plates while they're waiting for TT to go for their resets. But by letting Beishwan do this objective by himself, 1xN and Feather are going to get back to this lane in time to pick it up and also continue to match TES's bot lane.
Yeah, this is a very solid start for ThunderTalk Gaming. I mean, for the 1xN Tier 2 boots, being able to match Jackie Love, no huge advantage has been netted for either team at this point, but, the solid amount of gold that has been accumulated just thanks to a lot of these macro movements. Now, credit to Top Esports. I think they're doing a great job of not falling victim to, panicking and trying to flip something that doesn't need to be flipped, and then causing even more unnecessary volatility and giving that chance for ThunderTalk to just explode an advantage in this first 15 minutes of the game. They're just taking and trading whatever objectives they can. And so then once we get to the point of the game where Top Esports are hitting one item spikes, maybe that's when you see them pull the trigger.
They have some really powerful ultimates, right? We're talking about the Vi ultimate.
Yeah.
You also have Jackie Love and Crisp having such big team fighting contributing ults. So we'll see what they can do once they're hitting level 6. We already see Kanavi getting that level. You have Jackie Love and Crisp who are going to be getting that within the next minute and a half or so. We also have Dragon being taken on the opposite side by TES. And Mark, I can't believe it. I'm sure TS are probably not too unhappy with the state of affairs right now. Again, they are a team that I think we are expecting to see how they're able to do. Tab now. Okay.
Oh, I think Tab might just be gone. He tries to dash back with the distortion and dodge out on this all-in.
Wait a minute.
Flashing over the wall. They eventually get it, and the arrow from 1xN, unfortunately, is just a little too late. First blood goes over to Top Esports, not wasting a second and jumping on Tab.
Okay, that's what I like to see. I mean, one of the hard parts when you are playing LeBlanc is there's just going to be a Vi ultimate that's following. Maybe he thought he had the timing quite perfect, but they're able to force out the flash there. And as we check this replay here, I mean, Tab just has to get this wave in. No one's in the area. I love what we got from this, from Kanavi and Cream. Visually, that was a bit confusing. I won't lie. I'm sure the observers had to do a little bit of breakneck coming on through, but this is a really clean play. And you think about the resources that were used during this for TES. They invested a lot. I want to see if they can maybe try to turn this later on into an advantage. Remember, getting that kill for Kanavi and an assist for Cream is a little bit of gold. You're denying some of that golden experience from your opponents, but now you're missing out on ult for both of your mid and jungles and the flash, which I think are some pretty big investments coming out from Tab.
Yeah, and for Top Esports, I think the big advantage that you can try and gain from this is that knowing Tab is now down an additional escape tool, so you just have to be very persistent and timely with this cease and desist coming off cooldown in the next, I want to say 30-40 seconds for Kanavi. You need to immediately show up mid lane, try to put pressure down, or if you want to sync it up with the Void Grub spawn so that you are forcing Tab out of lane, and then you can guarantee yourself priority in order to fight over that objective now that we have returned to standard lane assignments.
Pretty slow early game, I won't lie. 9.5 minutes. I kind of want to see more fighting. We have an Ashe in the game. I just assume every team here in the LPL is going to want to fight, especially with early game Ashe, with how broken this champion is, but it's okay. We have it coming soon. Teleports are being invested here by Hoya just to be able to pick up this bottom lane wave. There's not a dragon to play for a minute and a half. Cream using both parts of his ultimate already 40 seconds before the grub fight, wanting to force out Tab from the mid lane. And you can already see that TES, they've now shifted over Jackie Love and Kanavi to help in the mid lane. Kanavi trying to avoid vision as well as possible. I think he's played this game. Kanavi, We didn't get to talk about him too much, but obviously 5 years on JDG, now here on TES, kind of making a similar trek that someone like Mako did. Now that Mako has left the roster, but he's been playing really, really well on Vision, I think, and covering his lanes, which has led to TT not necessarily being able to find all those massive lane leads here. So Kanavi's going to get spotted, and now that we're here on Grubs, Setab's going to have his ultimate. Cream isn't. I think that this is a pretty big win here for TES if they're able to play their cards right. And the Dragon's even spawning in 50 with the desync and timers there. They can contest for that Dragon as well. I think TES need to be able to make space somewhere on the map and make a play. And so far, we haven't really seen that kind of action from them.
Yeah, and for Top Esports, they were not able to find that advantage where they could create a numbers advantage in order to enter and contest for the second rotation of the Void Grubs. So for ThunderTalk, 6 grubs to them. And that is so damn nice for a 1-3-1 setup, as we were alluding to in the draft phase, assuming both Hoya and Setab are able to get off the ground and running. Obviously, that first death does decelerate Setab a little bit, but, you know, he's actually still not behind in lane still, considering the fact that he is able to somewhat chunk Cream out of lane by himself. So ThunderTalk are well in position, while, once again, not massively ahead in gold. They are still in position to execute on their game plan as they're making the siege on top side.
TS just look a little slow on the map. We're going to get that fight now.
Maybe it could be Feather just taking so much damage, and I guess they didn't know Kanavi was in the area, or at least underestimated their ability to turn that. And once again, decisiveness is what gives Top Esports a way back into this game.
Once Beishuan is out of the picture, or he moves out of the way from Feather, they know, look, we're either getting a flash out from this Renata, or we're just getting a kill. And they actually turned it into 2 here. Kanavi makes a play in mid. Setab is out thanks to using the Mimic and Distortion. Fantastic work yet again from one of our new players coming in for TT from the LCK. Great job.
Now this is Setab's 3rd most played champion in his career. Already showing, you know, that familiarity, coming really in clutch to survive, at least in the second all-in attempt from Kanavi and Cream. But take a look back at this replay on the top side.
You see the pings. CT know that Kanavi's at least in the area. And as soon as Beishuan moves out, like I was saying, they know that they're at least getting a summoner spell from the trade. The fact that they got 2 kills is, I think, the bow on top for them. And despite all of that, TT are going to be able to pick up the second dragon here. And I still like their odds in this game. It's a very, very minor lead, all things considered, at 13 minutes here. 2,000 gold, almost 1,000 after this dragon is spawning. So TT are looking good, and part of their success throughout DEMACIA Cup so far has been the fact that I think that they've played the map pretty decently throughout this tournament. I think some of their participants or their enemies so far have not really kind of pushed them in that manner. We had that 50-minute game 3 in the quarterfinals versus LNG, and Beishuan has been a very big proponent as to whether this team is able to find success alongside the carries that we were mentioning during the draft and a bit earlier in the show. So let's see if this kind of misstep maybe throws off ThunderTalk, or if we're going to kind of get more from them. As now we have the Herald spawning here in a little bit. You already see TT are already preemptively out on the map. They're going to get first say on this mid wave, and Feather moving bottom lane says to me that they just want to try to make this dive happen. They're going to give up this Herald and really focus on getting a first turret here and overload on the map.
And for ThunderTalk's, you know, credit, the rest of Top Esports aren't really committing to Rift Herald side just yet. It is just now Jackie Love is getting priority of the mid wave before Kanavi can move on over onto the top side of the map. 369 does give up control of the bottom tower, and that is first brick gold going over to ThunderTalk. So once again, macro play, really, really solid for ThunderTalk against such a, what we expect to be, a really powerful roster in Top Esports, despite this being, you know, their first tournament together as a new 5-man roster.
Yeah, big new members for everybody who's just joining us or is maybe unfamiliar. Kanavi and Chris joining in from their respective rosters. Cream gets caught here.
Good clip by Beishuan. Now Cream, can he get out alive? Yes, he does. Perfect execution into the wall so that he can flash over it. He's totally fine. Doesn't even need to use the second cast, as he has created enough distance. And because the rest of Top Esports were playing for that Rift Herald, he has multiple friends that he can reunite with for safety. But have to say, you know, Thunder Talk now being able to take a flash out of something like an Akali, maybe something they can punish on in the next 4 minutes.
That was a beautiful set of mechanics coming out from Cream. One of the reasons why we know for him for this champion. And yeah, with them kind of using that overload on the bottom side of the map, copying our current world champions in T1 and their play around grubs and how important they were, and then overloading onto one side of the map, grabbing yourself a turret, it makes it very difficult for you to match. Now that they've opened up one of these side lanes, I think it's only going to get easier here for TT to consistently get a bit of a deeper push onto the enemy lane, move into an objective, move into Fog of War, and try to play in the dark areas of the map here for TES. Again, TES really want to try to play a strong front to back. You have Crisp and Cassante. You have great lockdown alongside multiple of these champions to allow for your damage dealers to really get in there and win you a fight. So for TES, they want to be able to have all the vision, have all of the information going into a fight. And as long as TT are able to pull them around the map, like we've seen in these last 15 minutes, TT can very easily grow themselves a gold lead, get themselves an item advantage, and then come into what I'm going to assume is maybe a 3rd and 4th Drake with some pretty sizable leads that might end up in them kind of taking fights and eventually taking a Nexus.
Yeah, pretty remarkable that Thunder Talk, due to their map play, were able to actually grab that second dragon somehow away from Top Esports control, so they deny what could have been, you know, Top Esports trying to compete and put themselves for soul point contention in the next minute and a half. Now it's just going to be the second dragon for either team, possibly, which does slow down the game a lot. And even though they are behind in gold against Top Esports, it is simply due to Top Esports being insanely decisive on a couple of picks so far. And with this Rift Herald crash into the tier 1 in the mid lane, you might look for another crash, but it's not going to be in the mid lane. They're going to roam on down. Come on, Drift King. Let's see if you've put your time in that practice tool. Oh, good Drift. Really solid curves and turns. And Kanavi's just going to get one more crash, but it might be a little too...
Trying to sneak it? So what is he? Okay. He's trying to hide the... So he's making it so that it avoids the minion wave there. It gets another crash potentially into that bottom turret. I think it just dies to the... Yeah, the turret shot kills it there. Yeah, exactly. There were a couple of different plays there. Right there, Kanavi and TES, by them using the Herald, they opened up a mid-tier 1 and a bottom lane tier 1 with this dragon coming up. I think they're feeling really great about the gold lead that they're able to gain from that.
Yeah.
And in mid lane, we actually saw Jackie Love throw out his ultimate. Feather, I don't know if it was going to land, but as it maybe does, he uses his Mikhail. So there are a couple of small things there from TES that they were trying to fish right before this objective to say, look, you're not going to have Mikhails. We'll still have Leona ult as well. So many great interactions all happening at the same time. And I think the last 45 seconds right there show some of that killer instinct coming in from TES. So Top immediately trying to make plays. They want to try to make sure they get this dragon here. We're seeing teleports out from Setab. Cream will be able to match, so Setab really has to focus on pushing out this wave first and then roaming over, whereas Cream can stay in this lane for as long as he wants. Doesn't seem like TT are really going to be contesting for this objective, as they kind of took some of their recalls late and they really focused on trying to get that top tier 1 with their 6 grubs.
Yeah, and considering that Top Esports, while they have a small gold lead, it is still one that should not be disrespected. Everyone is on 1 item power spikes, except for 369, who has managed to secure a Spirit Visage in his inventory before anyone else has completed their 2nd item. So Thunder Talk just making sure that they don't fall prey into any situations where Top Esports could have and make that difference just, you know, due to stat advantage in a fight where, you know, despite this team, this being their 3rd stage game together, it is still one that, you know, all of us here on the broadcast, and I imagine everyone else remaining in the tournament, has a lot of respect for, and Thunder Talk does not want to take anything to chance.
Looks like they're making that play onto Jackie Love. Immediate cleanse comes out. So it's going to be the trade of ultimates, and getting that cleanse out from Jackie Love immediately does kind of open up the rest of this map. We'll see if TT can make another play. Again, they have the Ashe ultimate as well, so similar to them on this side. Oh, Setab didn't even use his distortion.
I mean, his passive pops, but Chris has been locked down and center, and Setab is now just gone from the fight.
There it is, wait a minute.
Ashe arrow right onto Jackie Love. He doesn't have cleanse anymore, but there's no proper follow-up from the rest of Thunder Talk. Here comes Cream, looks for the backline assassination, but just not enough damage as he has to take his retreat away from 1xN. Now Hoya trying to get into the front backline. Jackie Love falls to 1xN, he finds his moment, he flashes back into the safety of his team. He's kiting back with the arrows. Hoya complete completely running amok in the backline and dancing back into his own team for safety, choosing his moment. But 369 goes all out into Hoya, trying to play around with Cream. They're looking for 1xN. The bailout not enough as Hoya tries to do everything he can before he has to leap strike back to safety. 369 and Cream absolutely saving that fight for Top Esports.
1xN, there's just too many targets, not enough damage. I was wondering what this TT roster was going to look like, and with Satab immediately out of the fight, they lose a lot of that first punch that they were looking for. You can take a look at this replay. Satab just not knowing that Kanavi is here, doing his recall or looking to try to play. He just never uses his distortion. I think maybe before this play, it's on cooldown actually, so he doesn't even have it available. Doesn't use his flash either. And now you're in this position where you no longer have Sejuani ult, you no longer have Renata ultimate, and they're just still gearing up here from the side of TES.
And just look at how well the side laners of Top Esports split up the fight from Thunder Talk, where it looked so advantageous once Hoya started taking Jackie Love out of the fight.
Oh my god, even in the picture-in-picture, Cream is putting it on Satab right now. Satab is just, he's already solo killed, almost solo killed anyway. The flash goes down, we're gonna see 1xN start to put in damage, but it's Kraken Slayer, this item did just get nerfed. There's no longer any kind of real bailout, they don't have the damage to be able to get the reset as well, so like you were saying, the solo laners of TES, and I think the terrain just doing a lot of work and favors for them here as 1xN now.
H1 with the engage, looking for Jackie Love once again. Remember that he does not have any summoner spells, and it's an easy pickup for Thunder Talk. It's Feather that gets the kill credit, and for Top Esports now down to Marksman. Gonna have to back off and cede control of Thunder Talk's own side of the map back over to them.
So during that replay, we got to see a dragon taken here for TES. They also had that push thanks to bottom lane. Like I was saying, almost killing Satab means that they open up a side lane. This is starting to get more and more worrisome here for the side of TT. Their solo lanes are not doing well enough to, I think, generate enough an advantage. Satab literally does 0 damage to this Vi champion.
I was about to say, I think Kanavi is about to just give him the fisting, and now Satab now trying to get out of alive. Hoya making sure that he is there for reinforcements. 369 also forced to use the teleport just in case Kanavi was about to get, you know, 2v1 there in that situation. But the fact that Kanavi out damaging Satab, I mean, we already pointed out that, you know, Satab was trying to do well in this game despite being focused and was keeping up his, you know, gold lead relatively not too far behind from Cream. But Kanavi is so rich, 2 items, and he's just getting absolutely so much work done on the map.
He's one of the players that we were talking about, and I think rightfully so for the level of hype, for the level of play that this guy has put forward throughout the last couple of years here in the LPL. It's so sad. As a fellow AD carry player, I feel bad for 1xN. He's like, okay, I got enough damage on a Jackie Love, but there's an Akali at full HP, there's a Cassante. Goddamn. So let's take a look at the game. We have 20 seconds before Dragon. I don't think it's going to be a really meaningful one. As you already see, TT are already on the top side of the map. It would be sole point here for TES if they're able to grab that for themselves. But I want to take a look at the kind of tournament as a whole. This is a one where I think a lot of people, rightfully so, especially from a Western audience, are looking at DEMACIA Cup and they're going, all right, so what are we doing here? What's the play? Like, are we just having a bunch of like random matches, which is cool, great and all that we get to see LPL teams. One of the biggest changes I think for this tournament is the fact that the teams are required to have at least a majority of their LPL roster going into the next year. That was one of the reasons that I think DEMACIA Cup might have been exciting for different reasons, was the fact that, hey, we got like the LDL teams that got to be able to play for these guys. But this is a bit of a different one, especially with that change coming in over the last couple of years. And for this is, I think it's most so grabbing the attention and getting some hype generated for the teams and what they can kind of look like. And if TT can continue the level of performance, oh my god, Satab just got solo killed by Cream. All right, so Cream, I'm gonna keep going. I think there's not much. Oh, we're investing TP. Okay, never mind. All right, let's do this.
He just flashed. Doesn't have perfect execution anymore, and Hoya is just going to close the distance with the helicopter dong, ensures that the counter-strike lands. Nowhere else for Cream to go, but so much pressure. That was pretty much all 4 members all chasing Cream down on the top side of the map, which opens up this minion wave push with Kanavi and Jackie Love to secure the tier 2 turret in the mid lane. So still another advantage for Top Esports. And as you were mentioning already, Top Esports having so much firm control of the map, it's still only a 2,000 gold lead, but the way that Top Esports are playing it right now feels like more.
Well, what do we do now? Because we made this composition to try to play on side lanes, to be having really strong solo laners to affect them, but Tab is just getting, literally has not done any damage to Cream. Cream has Shadow Flame already finished, just almost one-shots him with a single combo there, has the Shadow Flame and the Proto Belt there completed. And now with TT, your solo laners are not in a great spot. So Tab specifically is a really big pain point for the squad. And Hoya, while being on this Jax, I think hasn't really been able to do all that much, as we haven't really seen TT really play the map in an effective way past the 15-minute mark. They got themselves the grubs, they're able to overload on some of these turrets, but they really haven't been able to protect their side lanes, and part of why this composition can start to work is you have Beishwan and Feather playing through mid lane, and then moving out towards side lanes, shadowing their laners, and allowing for someone like Ashe to safely pick up mid waves as they empower more of these solo lanes. So it's sad to see for TT, but the composition that we were kind of hyping up to see whether or not they could actually execute on is starting to fall apart as TS's solo laners are taking over the game. Almost level 16 for both of them here. It's going to be a huge power point coming into this next Dragon in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, man, and for Top Esports, I think if anyone was, still, I don't want to say doubtful, but, questioning how strong this roster was going to be on their essentially second day of playing together as a squad. Just imagine what the team is going to look like once we get into the full swing of the LPL season in 2025, when we get into spring split, when these guys have, double X the amount of games under their belt as a team, and this team really does get to cover up any, small windows of variability that, a team like ThunderTalk Gaming has been able to exploit so far, at least in the early game. Top Esports relatively has performed like a top team that we should expect to come out as. Sejuani ulti will get instantly traded by Jackie Love's Cleanse. Hopefully that gives a window for ThunderTalk Gaming if they can find a way back into it. The gold lead's still not completely insurmountable, right? But Top Esports, man, it's that firm grip that Kanavi always gets a chance to exact when he has a lead.
What am I supposed to do this game, man? Like, we keep saying the same play. Beishwan comes over a wall, he comes from Fog of War, he ults Jackie Love cleanses, and then nothing happens. We're not like able to make a much more aggressive engage, we're not able to get that damage down. We wanted to see at 2 items here, can TES put up a fight? I think that's been proven handily by the solo lanes, by specifically Cream so far, who's had a fantastic Akali game, which we expect from him as it is one of his most mastered champions throughout his career. We're just not seeing anything from TT. I think maybe that lack of damage that I kind of alluded to towards the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And we're just not really seeing the fights pan out. We're not getting an aggressive engage enough. I wanted to see what Feather was going to do on this Renata, because earlier on in the tournament, he was very aggressive with this ranged champion. He would like flash forward, handshake someone, try to find a kill, which sometimes would work, and especially in a group stage, you do have some kind of leeway to play like that, but that's not really going to be the case here now that we're here in the bracket stage in a best of 5 in our game 1 here. Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. We're setting up around this objective. Teleport flank coming in from Cream, and Satab is nowhere in the area.
Oh boy, this is going to be bad news bears for 1xN. He has no idea.
Oh, he missed the shuriken.
The shuriken doesn't land on the 1xN, so he's safe for now. 369 steps up and tries to buy space. Holds it there for Top Esports to gain control of the river right next to that Dragon Pit, but ThunderTalk now have that opportunity to fight their way back into control, looking for positioning. Cream now turning his attention to Hoya, but he doesn't want to exhaust all of his spells into the top laner. He wants to find that backliner in 1xN. He wants to look for the squishy marksman, as now Cream starting to weave his way around that right flank.
Oh. Those are huge cooldowns down now. We saw that they used the ultimate from Ashe. There's also no handshake, so there's a small timer here. Kanavi going for global red buff here, expecting that his team won't be able to they won't be able to take the dragon in time. Kanavi.
Sejuani ulti thrown out. Cream is now into the backline. Kanavi now has arrived to the party. Cream is popping the stasis to buy some time with that Zhonya's Hourglass. Here comes Hoya, tries to stall as long as he can, flashes away, but he gets assassinated, and here comes the rest of Top Esports. They find the flip. Good night, 1xN. Beishwan could be next as he flashes
tosses the safety feather trying to make the escape, but Kanavi is giving him the double knuckle down. Kanavi wants to make a statement. He is one of the best junglers in the LPL, and he is not letting go of that crown.
There we go, TES, they explode. We finally get a massive team fight victory for them. It's Ocean Soul, it's Baron, and TES are looking to put the finishing touches on a Game 1 victory. TT, man. Look, they have a lot of momentum. We saw yesterday that Weibo were able to take the first game, and then they made their sweep on the back end of that series. TT, I think, are going to have to go back to the drawing board and look for more success elsewhere, as this fight, I mean, we were talking about how Kanavi, he's trying to really min-max the amount of resources, but great job yet again. Crispin 369 buying so much time for their backline. I mean, Cream is applying so much pressure to try to kill some of these backline threats, and his Akali is bar none one of the best in the world here. So TES, they got, I think, some really great champions coming into this one, and we're seeing some great master classes coming in from top esports.
Everyone had their own moment in the spotlight, and it seemed so fluid that everyone seemed to tag each other in. Cream opening up the fight, going into stasis, then sending 369 and Kanavi to look for crucial CC to set up for the remaining damage of that perfect execution. As now ThunderTalk trying to defend this tier 2 turret on the top side. We already saw Jackie Love expend a Chain of Corruptions. As now a decent Sejuani ulti just stops Cream in his tracks. ThunderTalk maintaining the defense and siege for now, but now they have to deal with a minion wave that is creating an opportunity for top esports to look their way into the base through mid lane.
Ooh, I love this from Cream, just playing on the limits there. Also gets the flip back in after using it on his the smoke bomb. So great job from TES. They're playing this really, really well. I think the only avenue we can see from TT is if Satab can get another item, maybe get to level 16, getting the additional point in that ultimate can be really huge. But Cream with, dude, I mean, he has Ocean Soul. Every time he takes damage, he just heals. He can one-shot the back line. I think there's very little wrong. Now with Kanavi next to him with his Baron buff, it's only going to get tougher and tougher here for TT. So whatever items they have in their inventory, whatever kind of experience they have now, this has to be their last stand if they want to be able to stay in this game and even fight for a Game 1 contest.
And if they don't do anything, then top esports are just going to continue taking structures one by one. And if there was any window to take it, at least before those inhibitors fell, it's already gone. Now top esports shifting their attention to the bottom side of the map. This tier 2 turret will fall. I don't think Cream is going to overstay his welcome, though. Just give the Baron buff minions a little extra time and love before he gets his own reset. As we take a look back, there wasn't that much action that happened in this replay, but you can just see how much pressure is being exacted into this top lane siege.
Yeah, the Huya.
This is the replay where... Oh my god.
Okay, I was going to say... The observers for the China stream have been, you know, they always have a little bit fun. They zoom in on missed cannons. They zoom in on 1v1s. That was a great replay. I was a little question mark. I was like, I don't know if we really need to show a replay, but when it's to show how little damage Ashe does to a Cassandra champ, I'm okay with that. Here we go.
Look at all the CC out. There was a beautiful solar flare into the knockup from 369 as Kanavi sends it into the backline. Q flash right into Satab through 1xn's phase. I mean, how cracked is this guy, man? ThunderTalk are not going to withstand the siege and the pressure. Top esports don't drop a single man as they send the siege into the Nexus and will take Game 1 against ThunderTalk.
It was a slow first 15 minutes here for TES, but it seems like the sleeping giants have awoken so far here. It's only Game 1, so a lot of series still left to play in a best of 5, but a very dominant one after they were able to get that vehicle rolling for themselves. And I think for TT, while they have also lost their fair share of games up against someone like LNG in the quarterfinals, is obviously, I think, a much tougher opponent than them, and they're going to have to definitely go back to the drawing board. A lot of their wins have come from some later game team fighting, not necessarily winning the micro in that instance, but there was just not enough protection for 1xn, and we got to see what Cream's Akali could do in a backline. Maybe it was him winning that 1v1 that kind of instilled the fear. Now, he is facing Satab, right? So he beat him in the 1v1 on Caitlyn versus Yasuo. Then he beats him on Akali versus LeBlanc. I think Creams may be showing some aura versus Stab, saying, look, you just joined the LPL. Let me show you what my region does.
Yes, sir. This is what happens when you know, go into that hyperbolic time chamber. You put in the hours, you put in the years of work, as, you know, Cream has been demonstrating over his career within the LPL, how flexible he is. But the fact that we get to see a little bit of those roots, to see, you know, where he first made his name on, you know, something like an Akali and the Yasuo in that 1v1, dare I say it, Dimitri, we might be getting, you know, a full, you know, 4-course meal showing from Cream. You know, the appetizer was the Yasuo 1v1, the Akali is the first course, and depending on how long the series is from Top Esports, we're gonna get just as delectable dishes in our second and third course from them.
I just hope for this game that we do not get griefed on the MVP. Cream was the only person that was having fun this game. I think Cream got to have an exquisite amount of fun. And yeah, this post-game stream is just really disgusting. Like 1xN is like literally doing some of the most damage in the game, but he's playing Ashe. He has the Kraken Slayer build. He has the Brunon. So like overall, the amount of AD is pretty low. The amount of arrows that are flying is pretty high. But yeah, it just doesn't matter. And we didn't get to see some of those side lane matchups pan out like we expected. We saw Hoya and 369 interact a little bit, but part of that lane swap, they didn't really do like the full lane swap part of it, where they have the bottom lane being able to match. It was TT that ended up matching Jackie Love and Crisp, and we just kind of never got to see the solo lanes here of TT really get off to a great start. And that has, I think, been one of my biggest criticisms for someone like Hoya. He was always someone that has been really good on tanks. The laning phase has never been somewhere that he's really excelled. So to put him on a champion that can do so well in the laning phase versus someone like Cassante, and then you also have to play side lanes, I think playing side lanes on a team that isn't necessarily winning in the mid game is very, very difficult, because suddenly you're like, well, I would love to hit this turret and just, you know, mog this turret with 6 grubs. I don't get to play because I don't know where enemy jungler is. I don't have my mid lane applying pressure onto the mid lane and getting enough turret damage. Maybe that's a mistake from them taking the bottom tier 1 too early and not necessarily being able to really extend that lane in their favor as the game went on. But we just didn't get to see it from them.
To be fair for Satab, Kanavi, you know, had 1 of 3 lanes to choose to be, you know, facing his Eternal Wrath on repeat with Cease and Desist, and he chose Satab as his opener. I mean, if you're LeBlanc and you see suddenly both mid lane and jungle from the woodwork flash ulting on top of you, at that point you just throw your hands off the keyboard like, what can I do, man? I'm sorry if they hate me. You know, God has chosen me to not be his favorite in this game, and Satab, for what it's worth, tried to do his best to endure what he could.
How can I play? Jungle's in my lane. How do we do it?
How do we do it?
We have to see it, like you're saying. So, unfortunate for Satab and the crew over at Thunder Talk. I'm hoping that the second game gives us... I don't think we're going to get anything much more exciting. I think we'll take a look at what this game has already done. In the group stage, 1xN played 3 games of Varus back-to-back. In their quarterfinals win versus LNG, he was unable to pick up this Varus champion. TES have denied it here again. Now he's also lost on the Ashe. And so we're probably going to get more Wombo comps coming out from TT, because I think what we have seen from them throughout the quarterfinals and their group stage is, while some of their micro isn't the greatest, and we're talking about their macro having a little bit of holes in them, and them being, I think, a slower team to start in a game, they have been really, really focusing on easier to execute compositions that have really clear guidelines as to get 1xN ahead, let him have like a champion like Jinx, have him reset, and have him take over a fight alongside Satab, who consistency, I think his floor has been a lot higher than someone like UCal, but it's those high highs that we were kind of excited for when we saw him in the LPL.
Yeah. I think if Cream does not get MVP vote, then the second best candidate would, in my book, be Kanavi, since he was the orchestrator for finding that. Hey, right, I'm telling you, it's not the jungle bias. I'm telling you, man. Hey. You know, just put bias aside. You know, think about who got Cream to that point of, you know, absolute, you know, domination in the side lane and being able to wreak havoc in the back line. You know, Kanavi said, brother man, I'm gonna be level 6 in 30 seconds. When I do, we are going to kill Satab. We're gonna make sure that you're getting a guaranteed advantage in lane. And lo and behold, drum roll. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie, I still think it should have been Cream, but Kanavi, I will gladly accept.
Dude, I don't even get to do my stupid cream glaze joke. I hate it here. Dude, come on. Come on. Kanavi, fine. I'll give it to him. He did well. You set it up before. He set up Cream for success. We got to see him do his dragon take.
I think it's fair to say that AlkBattery needs a moment to recover from the grief and the absolute sadness of not seeing his boy Cream get the MVP that he may or may not have deserved over Kanavi. But that means for us, he'll give us some time to take a break. When we come back, Game 2 between Top Esports and Thunder Talk will be on your screen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All smiles here on the LPL English broadcast casting desk here after honestly a fantastic Game 1 showing from Top Esports. And, for Thunder Talk, the first 7-8 minutes looked promising, and even the macro play was still, meritable up to an extent. It just, once Cream got online, things got very, very difficult for Thunder Talk's backline to survive.
Yeah, well, according to the media vote, it was Kanavi and 369 who were winning that game. guess I'm gonna mess up my cream bag. I guess my
Guys,
bad,
my
bad.
co-caster's a little salty about the.
Dude, okay,
MVP
the
pick.
only people who voted for cream are the observers and the casters, which just goes to show,
W.
just like us, it's just the Keck W media vote. Okay. Thank you to I think it was Cubby who brought up the LCK Keck W media vote. I'm glad. You know that's just how it goes. I'm not super happy about seeing the 369 ones. Just threw me off. I'm like, cool, he played Cassante. Maybe it was the zoom in that we saw where like 1xN is literally like he's like the guy sweating doing like the combos and he's just sitting there singing payphone as Cassante. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. He's literally doing nothing. He's having fun. But for what it's worth, Kanavi and Cream both did have a fantastic game, as did I think the majority of TES. I will say, I think Jackie Love so far has had a bit of a slower tournament, one that we're kind of still waiting to see him ramp up. I think with the addition of Cream to the roster now, I think they're still trying to figure out how that 2v2 is kind of having to go. Although you would think with someone like Crisp, who is really, really looking for engages, that we would see more of a similar duo that we got from Jackie Love and Mako this last year. But it seems like we're still having some of those growing pains. And also, I will say, it's probably just a hard game to play AD carry. There are a lot of champions going on. You're playing on hit Varus. It's not great.
You know, you did say that playing on his Varus into the composition that Thunder Talk drafted would be a very bold choice, and you know, Jackie Love went for it anyway. I can't say that he reached, you know, Himothy levels in that game that, you know, definitely went to Cream's performance, since Jackie Love, as soon as you step up, you've got a Jax, you know, spinning the lamppost and bonking you over the head. You've got, you know, LeBlanc, despite, you know, Tab kind of being put in the dirt and behind Cream in the side lane, you're still LeBlanc. You still have, you know, threat potential with trying to, you know, pop or do a lot of burst damage onto, you know, Jackie Love. And I think at that point, you either say, I just don't step up and play the game, or I step up and play the game for 1 or 2 seconds and get as much damage as I can and just accept the fact that you're gonna die.
Jackie was not Himothy. I will say he earned his he/him pronouns, so I'm happy for him. He's at least him for now. We'll see how that looks throughout the rest of the series. Maybe we have to demote him to just the AD carry player, and we'll use I guess nouns like that. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that part of the game, from the segment. For TT, now that we are in Fearless, we have to start thinking of champions that are no longer available. It is the Ashe that is a really big takeaway, the Varus, like you were mentioning earlier, and for TT, they have been been able to play the Skarner. We've seen that pick earlier on in their series from group stage, but we also saw Victor get through this game. So I wonder if that's kind of just like as a telltale sign from this side of the bracket as to whether they kind of feel Victor is that strong. He's been a champion that I think you can very much tell publicly the outrage is there, that like, okay, this champion is really broken. But when you think about what Victor is now, with the numbers changes that he kind of received, specifically with his ultimate, I think Victor is still thematically the same champion. He's not a great laner. He is very, very abusive, especially with the tank itemization right now, which I've already made my tweets about tank class right now. We can get into it later if you really want to. But the fact that a Victor champion can build all these tank items and still do a lot, I think says more about the items and less so about the champion kit, because we're also getting stuff like tank LeBlanc in North American Solo Queue right now. So everything's up in the air
really?
right now.
Oh my goodness.
Bob Chin is doing disgusting things on the ladder with Dead Man's Plate.
I did
It's
see
Dead
that.
Man's Plate that's the big propagator of all these disgusting builds, but yeah.
So you're saying that Dead Man's Plate is OP right now?
All the tank items are broken just because there's not enough damage in the game. And by the time you do get damage, the tank items have already kind of outlasted you, and yeah, it's a bit difficult. But
you know,
I'm going to digress from that.
This tends to be the cycle with the state of League of Legends, because earlier this year during the mid-season patch update, we had, you know, sweeping changes that made it so that everybody does damage. Everybody can assassinate in one shot, you know, because like you said, you know, before it seemed like there was no damage in the game. It's like, well, this is very boring. Everyone is just playing tank style builds, and it's just a question of not being able to kill the other person first. It's, well, how long can you last? And now with, big damage items getting nerfed over and over again, rip to the Storm Surge era, rip to all the Faded Ashes eras that we saw. Obviously, there's still some AP champions that can thrive, but not necessarily because of the item, but just because the base strength of the champion by itself. It's now back to a slower meta overall. But as you called out, because we're in Fearless, a lot of these powerhouse champions are now gone for the rest of the series. And for the most part, it's pretty much the same bans, although the victor does get taken off the table for the second game of the series.
Interesting that it's the Victor ban here. We've seen a couple of the other teams here in DEMACIA Cup go for it as a first pick, so that being taken away, seems like they're really trying to focus on 1xN's champion pool, at least within the last, this past tournament, taking away the Misfortune. There's no Leona setup, so from Chris, we're probably going to be seeing a Rel or something like the Alistar, already seeing it locked in here, so getting their strong bottom lane duo. What is 1xN and Feather really going to be preparing here? Because now you don't even have the Renata, so more likely you're going to be seeing a Braum come out from Feather, and I'm assuming that they're going to be having something prepared for this kind of matchup on other parts of the map if you can try to play for it.
And even though this Corki could get flexed into the mid lane, I imagine that it would be in Undertalk Gaming's best interest just to keep this marksman pick for 1xN so that you are not running out of potential marksman champions for another, at the very least, one more game, or more if Thundertalk are able to find some wins in this or for the rest of the series. Now the Zyra, that's one of the few AP champions that still can be such a terror to deal with for any team that allows her to kind of get through the first couple clears without any interference, because then your objective control is insane. Your ability to create so much space and hold so much terrain and zoning is almost second to none compared to a lot of other champions in the game right now.
And I think it's great just because Baestron in years past has been such a big proponent of playing AP junglers. I think that this year, the fact that his team wasn't really able to find success with him playing AP junglers was a pretty big mismatch in styles. He's one of the players that was really, really popularizing bringing AP junglers into LPL. So kind of sad to see that his team wasn't able to make that kind of work done, as the whole year, or at least the first half of the year, was dominated by these champions. So going with the Zyra here, I think, is really cool, not only in the fact that it gives them a bit of range. I think for what TES tend to play, which are some low range compositions from the top side of the map, Zyra adds so many different questions that you now have to answer, and with a Viego on the opposite side, you're asking for a lot of overreach from TES. They really have to overextend themselves to be able to find a reset onto someone like Zyra, who can optimize for something like Azonia's. You have the Corki and the Nautilus. There are a lot of tools here from TT that I already like. So coming into the second phase bans, we see Ambessa and Jin gone here for TT, or for TES. TT, however, getting rid of some mid lane champions. I wonder if they're also going to try and take away another one of these top laners away from 369 that they're trying to prepare for. Instead, just getting rid of some mages from Cream. Macaulay's already gone. You have the Silas now taken away. The Orianna one, I think, is a bit more interesting to me.
What does Cream want to pair up with in this Viego? Anytime you have a Viego on your team, you want to get a consistent amount of pick potential, as well as single target lockdown, or just a lot of burst damage. Misfortune kind of fits the bill for burst damage, but it does require you getting an uninterrupted full channel ultimate. The Ahri will help guarantee that a little bit, and also plays into the reset theme that you have going on here for top esports, but it does give 369 counter pick opportunity now for Thundertalk. The Ezreal being locked in, so this is actually going to be Corki mid lane. I don't think we would be seeing Ezreal mid, but this is now a lot of mobility and survivability for both of the marksmen here in Thundertalk.
Okay. I think the damage for TT is in a bit of a weird spot. So you're going to be having Baestron and the Corki, as well as the Ezreal, really starting to chip away at their opponents. And it's going to be on Hoya and Feather as the main engage to not only be able to tank up damage, but also secure those kind of kills for the team. We're getting 369's Mordekaiser, one of his, his top most picked within the last year, but a champion that he has been able to find varying levels of success throughout the years. I'm excited to see what we get from him here. Mordekaiser seems absolutely miserable to play in this game, but in the lane here up against Maokai, I think this opens up so many options for them, and it's these kind of pocket pits that work so well in a fearless draft, right? You're taking a champion that is particularly niche, and you're trading it. When you look on the opposite side, there's not going to be, going into game 3, there's no Nautilus, there's no Corki, there's no Maokai now. So you're kind of losing, you're taking away a champion while not necessarily giving away, I think, the most high priority of top laners. So this should be really fun to see. I think we have a lot of strong lanes here coming in for TES, which, again, I think accentuate some of the players' strengths when we talk about this team.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened for Top Esports and Thunder Talk Gaming in the previous game. The fact that Top Esports were able to get so much control of the map through the natural laning prowess of both Cream and 369. Cream in particular, thanks to Kanavi giving him that extra little push and snowball, with all the focus being put onto Satab in the first couple of casts of that ultimate through the Vi plays. Top Esports now, if you are able to break up this 5-man from the side of Thunder Talk by keeping a Maokai in the side lane, since Mordekaiser doesn't necessarily thrive, as you already called out, into things like Ezreal, Zyra, or Corki, because either they're too far away for you to close the distance in, or in the case of Zyra, trying to walk through Zyra plants is just a absolutely tragic and miserable experience, especially if you don't have any mobility of your own, and Mordekaiser has pretty much none outside of his flash.
All right, we're getting here into game 2 of our semifinals, our last semifinals before we go on to the grand finals happening in a day's time. 2 days, actually, happening on the 29th. So exciting stuff, especially for TT if they are able to win the series. A lot of momentum, 3-0 in their individual group, then ending up taking, a big win, I think, up against LNG. Seeing them here in the semifinals is so exciting. And for TES, a team that hasn't had a lot of time to really kind of cook in this tournament. They've only had their single quarterfinals, but one of the last remaining favorites here as we go forward into the grand finals after this.
Yeah, and the winner of this series goes up against anyone's legend for, those that didn't get a chance to see their own respective semifinal series and their progress throughout the entire DEMACIA Cup. They've had a pretty notable rebuild of their own, picking up the likes of Tarzan, I think was probably one of the bigger names too.
What is that?
Hang on, hold the phone. That was a disgusting amount of damage just put onto Cream.
Thank you to the Corki changes when they reverted him to being an AD champion. Also, and just Feather, that hook just does not need to land. That's great. I love Nautilus.
Moment.
They have Ignite as well, so this is another matchup where Cream in the laning phase is going to have a bit of a tougher time. We're seeing again the lane swap here. Kanavi immediately crossing over into the bottom side, wants to try to take as many of these camps away, especially with these high value camps. For someone like the Zyra, we want to see them be able to hit their first and second item spikes really, really early on. They're high resource intensive junglers. So by taking the Raptors, I was surprised to see TT's mid lane pair not immediately kind of crash down and try to find where Kanavi is, but I think they're more than comfortable with just trying to find the 2v2 here. And if 369 is not careful with him TPing up to this top side, they know Beishuan and Feather are in the area. This could turn into a very ugly dive in the next coming waves. I don't think Chris is going to have time to really get all the way around this map, especially with Feather and him kind of forcing him around the map.
And it's just so hard to actually deny camps from something like a Zyra. The fact that if you still have access to a second quadrant after your first clear, you clear camps so fast, and you're able to easily just transition this over to a potential dive. As 369, he's doing a great job of holding the minion wave and killing it against Hoya, who can't really do that much damage, just as a Maokai flashes the dredge line from Feather, and now they have to initiate the dive, but Feather's starting to take up the turret shots, and he has to drop aggro because they're not going fast enough. Beishuan takes a nasty amount of damage off of that last turret shot since it had been ramping up, and now Chris is actually doing enough base damage.
Wait a minute!
Flip! Holy kaboli! 369 and Chris might have just outplayed this turret shot.
What
are you doing? Just go in! But there's no minions to take it up. It's just absolute disaster in the top side, and 369 369 and Cribs just made Thunder Talk look like Thunder Clowns.
Oh, wait a minute, Chris is still looking now. Beishuan's back, the wave isn't crashing just yet. TT, if they want this to really work, they need to be able to get this. This entire time, Kanavi has been farming, so if this does not go the way of TT, the game is over from a jungle position.
Oh, he gets the shield from the crash down.
That's
Finally,
one.
they pick up one kill, and the second one, the nightmare is over for Thunder
no.
Talk, but it is just begun, because here comes Kanavi. Beishuan has no choice but just to execute himself to the minion wave, as now Kanavi will pick up at least one kill, finds the dredge line on the minion to close the distance against Hoya. He's trying to get the killing blow, but the flash for the Riptide not in range. It is just another execute for Hoya. But man, oh man, Alk, what a way to open up this second game.
So the kill score at the top said that there are 3 kills. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deaths. Half of them are this turret. This top tier 1 for TES is 3-0 right now. Insane stat line for the game. He has the other half of the kills. He's stealing him from the top scoreboard right there. What a messy dive, and Kanavi was able to maximize by getting camps, by even able to pick up the rest of that top lane wave if he really wanted to. Thunder Talk just did not apply enough pressure on the opposite side. I want to take a look at this replay here, because again, 369 did such a great job. Hoya does no damage of being able to shove this wave, and so this is now like 2 or 3 waves too late here for TT. And I think 1xN's just like, okay, the minions have to be hitting. Maybe he thinks, oh, it's this minion here, it dies. So 1xN thinks he has enough damage, and it's just perfect shielding coming in from Mordekaiser.
Oh man, I'm just at a loss for words, because you can tell that Thunder Talk obviously wanted to make this play as easy as possible, and when you have an opportunity as Zyra to completely full clear both of the top quadrants before them making a play, obviously the confidence was high, as that, oh yeah, we have 4 members here, this should be the freest and easiest dive in the world, considering how much potential resources they could have gotten. Instead of making that play happen, it just goes to show that top esports just really capitalizing and punishing what could have been a huge snowball for Thunder Talk that is now, I mean, it is still a decent advantage for Thunder Talk considering that they have 2 kills to 1, but it could have been so much worse.
Kanavi's trying to make a play for this, and you know that Cream has ultimate. I think that you should be looking for this, especially with how close Kanavi. If he can get another kill, if he can steal another grub, this can be them setting up with a really big win. 369 is here as well. TS should be contesting this last grub for sure, I think, in my opinion.
Hoya tries to lock up Kanavi. Doesn't have flash anymore, but they get the
reset.
kill, and he's gonna get. Oh, but he just dies right before looking for the possession of the reset. Seitab flashing away from 369, looks for one last mace blow. Cream doesn't have enough mana. Oh my goodness, Seitab survives with less than 50 HP off the back end of it. The big hero for Thunder Talk.
Honey Fruit coming up clutch there for Thunder Talk. As they make it happen, they get themselves 3 grubs, huge win, as well as the fight. They get themselves also some of the summoner spells. More importantly for me, the ult out from Cream. Though it is a low cooldown, they expended a lot for that, and they ended up making big on the play. I just want everybody to look at this Honey Fruit. So first, we start onto Kanavi. It's really unfortunate for TES. If they're able to get this reset, it's great, but Cream came from mid lane with less than 20% max mana. He comes in, he's only able to throw maybe 1 or 2 spells. He gets his ultimate off, and then this right here, 1 Honey Fruit. One of oh, 369 didn't grab one of them. So yeah, Seitab just gets 3 of them, and now we're making a play into Cream. Seitab gets another kill. It's now 6-2 in favor of TT. They can make a look onto this dragon. Early game, yet again, going over to the favor of Thunder Talk.
Dimitri, things are looking up for the Thunder Talk squad. I mean,
last game, I'm not getting hype. I don't want to get baited.
you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we don't want to fall into the pit trap of, getting excited too early. And considering the disastrous dive that occurred, if that happened to us in our flex games, this game would have already been over. We would have been waiting in the base. We would have let Top Esports walking on in, but strong resolve, strong mental from the side of Thunder Talk to continue pushing forward. And now that Seitab 3-0-1 on this Corki, very accelerated, a very different look compared to what we saw in game one, where it was Saytab on the receiving end of a lot of jungle pressure and being put, you know, further and further behind, where Cream was getting the advantage. The fact that this Corki is going to come online a lot faster, as now, 1xN is in trouble. He's in the death realm with 369, and Feather is going to try and give him assistance once he pops back out. And 369 does flash over the thorns from Beishuan and will at least trade 1 for 1 before trying to retreat back into the safety of his own side of the map, but doesn't have another second cast of that shield. Does go down to Beishuan. And Top Esports, at least in their top laner, will find an advantage by himself.
Man, it's unfortunate for 1xN that he ends up going down in that trade. It takes a lot of, I think, the wind out of TT sails. Looks like TES do want to try to make this play. They're bringing over 3 members to die of Hoya. Oh, no W now.
Nice shattering strike into the crash down guaranteed combo. Kanavi picks up the reset as well. We saw a true shot barrage from 1xN trying to kill the minion wave to give Hoya a little bit more time, but just not enough to survive. Top Esports still trying to find their way back into stabilizing this gold deficit they find themselves in against ThunderTalk. Will be able to pick up first brick of the game. Nice amount of gold injected back into their pockets.
Good structure take here coming out from Top's bottom lane, as they've really focused on making sure that JackeyLove is able to get gold for himself as a large portion of their teamfight damage. When we take a look at this game with the Misfortune alongside Cream, looks like they're going to be investing teleports from the 2 solo lanes here, as TT trying to make a siege for 3 grubs. 40 seconds before the next dragon. Without them taking a recall here, I'm expecting them to stay out on the map. Beishuan has already finished the Leandries, so I think unless you're going to be moving JackeyLove over here, who only has the Bloodthirster, and I mean Bloodthirster has a lot of base AD on it, but I think you're still missing some of that crit chance. This is going to be a tough fight coming in for TES. They need to be able to make miracle engages, and the big thing for me is going to be these 2 supports now hitting level 6. Can we see masterful engages come out from either Feather or Crisp?
And for ThunderTalk, as long as they are the first ones to the objective, that makes the Zyra setup so advantageous for them, and so much more difficult for Top Esports to try and brute force their way through. As Hoya already being the first one to rotate as the top laner over to the top side of the map so that they can be in position to get that second rotation on spawn. As they're trying to get wave prio, but they're dropping it for now. 1xN slowly shifting his way to the grub pit, as Kanavi is going to be the first one into the river.
Okay, that's 1 grub already taken here for TT. Corki's going to have first move into this play.
Feather was looking for that engage. Hoya already throws out the ultimate. Saytab, and making his way on over. Hoya has lost a huge amount of HP, below 50% HP.
Feather.
Kanavi gets this huge smite. Crisp going in onto the back line. A lot of damage from JackeyLove through the bullet time. Feather's the only one that's taking up really any damage. And Kanavi goes for the first reset, finds the Nautilus, flashes right on top into the back line, and here they come. But Saytab manages to pop Kanavi before he gets another reset in. Saytab trying to empty the full Corki clip.
What
it's starting off as JackeyLove picking up a quadra in the back half of it. He was left unchecked, and when that happens, JackeyLove will be the victorious one.
He does not get answered in that fight. He's knocking on the door. He's saying, guys, there's a Misfortune hitting your backline. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? No answers from TT. They pick themselves up a big team fight win. It is still 5 grubs here for TT. So if they can make a good use of this objective, then we can say later on that this team fight doesn't end up doing all that much for TES. But I love this engage coming out from Feather. He finds this, immediately he's pulling a lot of attention onto himself, and even Crisp here gets the flash ultimate. I mean, this Misfortune ult does absolutely nothing. Beishuan actually flashes into it. He maybe feels bad a little bit for JackeyLove. Says, look, okay, fine, I'll give you some ult damage on that one. But Cream on this Ahri, not applying enough pressure, is able to come in on the back end of this fight. And I think for TES, some of the woes from last game is the fact that I think that their solo laners really didn't kind of get on the same page. We didn't see them link up with Kanavi. You're seeing an engage here.
He has no flash from before, no Heartbreaker since it's still not off cooldown. Barely survives, managing to live through the burn as the rest of ThunderTalk are able to bully the rest of Top Esports away from that first tier 1 turret. True shot barrage. I was curious to see if he was trying to look for a miracle snipe on the Kanavi as he recalled into the base, but might have been a little too early, maybe just going for the minion wave instead. But ThunderTalk managing to pick up their first turret of the game in that top side. Second dragon of the game spawning in 30 seconds.
look at the gold advantage right now for TT. It is really, I mean, it's only 1,000 globally here for TES in the advantage, but when you look at where that gold is, it's 4,000 onto Jackie Love. And the opposite side, mid jungle here for TT is doing a fantastic work, kind of some fantastic work when you look at almost 1,500 for Basejuan, 1,500 here for Sitab. If there's ever a realm where we kind of see this mid jungle take over, I think it'd be a kind of a beautiful homage to the UCal experiment that we've been seeing for the past couple of years, where yeah, we have some Korean mid laners, they're still playing here, and we're getting some similar high performances up against teams that we're expecting to be able to win DEMACIA Cup and also have really great performances coming into LPL 2025.
And it puts a big highlight for Sitab and Basejuan to really sync up because, as you pointed out, Jackie Love is really the only person on the side of Top Esports that has a massive gold lead. But the fact that he is a very squishy Misfortune puts out a lot of damage, but it's a glass cannon, so it's also pretty frail if left isolated. The question does come down to ThunderTalk. How can you set up those engages? Because, you know, a lot of your damage dealers are not necessarily built for diving. They're built for poking, keeping range distance, and allowing Top Esports to be the first ones to, or the ones to walk in if ThunderTalk get the setup first. So big task and, you know, tall orders for the side of ThunderTalk if they want to try and shut down Jackie Love, as he still has both summoner spells available.
Okay. If there's ever a point where TES can try to find a win, 4 minutes from now you have a Dragon, 4.5 minutes is going to be a Baron. Jackie Love is scaling really, really well. We talked about that goldie that he had for himself. Just finished his second item. 1xN has only just now finished the Trinity Force. So when we're talking about, you know, a great bottom laner that has done really well for this team so far, it seems like so far in this matchup versus Jackie Love and Chris, him and Feather have not really found that same level of success that they have throughout all of DEMACIA Cup. And if Jackie Love in 3.5 minutes time is able to generate a similar amount of gold in that time that he has in the last 15, he's going to have 3 items coming into this fight. That's going to be a huge boon for TES moving into what looks like to be their sole point.
It's a good Rift Herald from ThunderTalk, just trying to get some chip damage onto this tier 1. Hopefully to be the first ones into that Dragon Pit so they can deny that soul point potential from Top Esports, as you were mentioning. Cream on that top side of the map, picking up another tier 1 turret for Top Esports, 3 to their name. Has teleport available, as looks like he just got a base in, or he actually TP'd to the bottom side of the map so he can be here early. Watch for the way Cream is going to look for a flank and just try to pressure the backliners, because since Jackie Love is already so fed, as long as Jackie Love is being unpressured in these fights, it's not really on Cream or Kanavi to try and win the backline fight for you. You're just disruption. You're just looking to make sure that Jackie Love is having the time of his life, and he will win the fight for you.
And Cream right there, the teleport is mostly just to be able to match to stop them on that push from being able to grab that. Ends up being somewhat of a wasted TP, as eventually they are going to be able to grab this. Again, 5 grubs is just so inevitable. We saw part of the reason why Team 1 was able to win the World Championship is the fact that they were able to recognize how powerful grubs are and just overload one side of the map, take all of your turrets, and then say, okay, well now we have massive gold. You're not able to match on the same side of the map. We're going to then do the same thing on opposite sides or look for really advantageous fights. That's been kind of their bread and butter and how they ended up winning. So glad to see that teams are starting to pick that up. We're getting TT utilize the grubs really well, which is another theme from game 1 that we had. But in the same game, they still lost out on a bunch of team fights. We didn't really get to see Sitab have a great performance, and now it's kind of on a different foot where 1xN this time around is having a bit of a struggle as Ezreal in this game to be able to put down any real amount of damage, and it's Sitab who, now coming in, almost finished with his Muramana, will probably be done in the time for the Dragon, although 320 stacks is a bit tough. Basejuan's also starting to lose access to jungle camps. That's not what you want to see when you're playing the Zyra jungle.
Yeah, but that's going to be the case when Misfortune is allowed to roam from mid lane after getting the first shove against something like an Ezreal, which is pretty easy to do, given the amount of wave clear you have in your kit compared to Ezreal's. And Kanavi gets a little bit more control. And this is where Kanavi historically in the LPL has been able to really accentuate his strengths and his prowess as a jungler whenever he's able to work with his lanes to get vision control, because then even against something like a Zyra who you know, in a matchup against Viego, you would imagine you should always be the one, you know, accelerating the state of the map, being able to rapidly clear your jungle compared to a Viego. That doesn't matter if you don't even get control of your own jungle to begin with, because you've got, you're trying to deal with a 5-0-1 Misfortune who's burrowing his way into your own camps.
I just realized Hoya has ADCS at 19.
That's tough.
That's tough. Look, the level 2 dive didn't go well. And he's just been playing Maokai into Mordekaiser, which is pretty miserable. Oh, we're finding an engage.
And you know what? An
Ooh!
engage on a support might not seem the most ideal thing, but it allows for a 1 reset for Kanavi, and having access to something like a Nautilus guarantees any pick falling up onto something like Hoya, who has been isolated thanks to the Death Realm popped by 369. And just like that, Alk, Top Esports, 2 free back-to-back kills creates a 5-3 man advantage on the map.
I mean, what is Feather doing? Like, so yes, he gets caught out. You can maybe argue as to whether or not, like, that was a reasonable area for him to be in, but after he gets caught, he just, like, throws his hands on the keyboard and just, like, he flashes, he presses all. Okay, let's take a look at this replay. So, he's defending the river bush. That's fine. He's defending blue side ramp into his, or red side ramp into his jungle. He gets hit here. Beishwan flashes out, and look at what Feather does. He just flash, hooks the wall, ults Kanavi, dies anyway. Those are tools you're going to be missing, especially with Baron up on the table coming up soon. So I think TT are just kind of losing the plot a little bit, and it's unfortunate to see here, especially with how much hype and excitement was coming around. Them winning up against LNG, what I think was a tall task, but up against TES, it seems like the match has been made here, and TES are kind of showing why they were automatically seeded into the bracket stage, why this team is one of our favorites to win out of the entirety of DEMACIA Cup, and has a lot of riding on this tournament, especially when we talk about the fact that so many of the other tournament favorites are already gone so early on here.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter that, you know, this is a new, or, you know, a different roster for Top Esports as we get another fight into the blue side jungle. Kanavi might have gone a little too far on that one. No resets for him. Chris taking a lot of damage from Satap as he flashes back over the wall. Cream looking for one more reset off of this Orbit Deception. Now gets another cast of that Spirit Rush. Should be fine. True Shot Barrage
from
1xN. Woo! And Baseline is going to get the kill credit thanks to the burn from the Liandry's Torment, but that is all credit to 1xN having the guts to be able to go in with that Arcane Shift, find the little bit of extra damage, and it's just a nice hero moment for him. You know, 0-3 and 5 does not tell the story just from that fight alone.
1xN, Flash, Arcane Shift, finds Cream, gets his Summoner spell as well. And at the very least, I think it maybe just stops them from being able to immediately turn towards the Baron here. Kanavi misses out on the Spectral Maw, ends up getting turned around by TT, and they're able to find the enemy jungler here. And I love what we get from both Jackie Love and Cream. They apply pressure into a really small choke. 369 on this Mordekaiser is just putting in work. This MF ult, while it looks, I think, a little bit funny, maybe Twitch chat has a little bit of fun with it, it splits up the fight in a very meaningful way. And once this True Shot Barrage lands, it's the flash, the eat forward, Cream not maybe expecting. It's also the Zyra damage that comes through and finds that kill. So, like you're saying, 0-3 and 5 happens. It's not his fault. That kill probably should have gone over to him. But still, the game is very tough. The gold is still starting to climb back. 3,500 gold here for TES in advantage. And we've got Dragon spawning in 2 minutes. Looks like they're going to try and make a play and look for Summoner spells.
Oh, and Feather was trying to lock down Cream on the entrance there, but goes a little too far forward. Is still surviving, but can't say the same about Beichuan, who fell on the right side of that fight. And with the Death Realm popped, there's nowhere that Hoya can go once again. And we saw why this Mordekaiser was locked in as soon as they saw the Maokai. Yes, the Maokai, even with no econ, with no gold, you can still be reliable. But if you don't get to be in the fight at all, then you don't get to really play the game and contribute to the side of Thunder Talk.
If TT were able to snowball this game, I think we could have seen a little bit, oh my god, Satap, what are we? We are just going forward. Okay, respect. I mean, he knows he doesn't have ultimate. He should be able to just pressure them off. Remember, 5 grubs hitting on mid. This will be the Baron here for TES. But what I wanted to talk about before, am I going to be allowed to? Cream?
I mean, Satab is going to try to create as much space as he can, but Cream, no flash, but Jackie Love should be easily able to auto him over the wall. I mean, I think it's fair credit to Thunder Talk just getting whatever they can on the map right while top esports are going for that Baron play. It does force them over to respond, but this is such a difficult state to fight through, and I have to give admiration to Thunder Talk wherever they can find these small windows to just fight their way back into this game, despite how insurmountable it might seem.
This is why I had some hesitation about this draft coming out from TT, is the Maokai and the Nautilus can be really great front lines, but you're very much... Oh, Crisp!
I mean, they're looking for the engage. Really nice setup from Chris with the Shouting Strike into the crash down. Hoya already flashing the hell out of there. 369 wanted a piece of that pie as well, but doesn't find anyone with that mace. But the rest of top esports, they sent the message. They have full control of this red side jungle. No crumbs will be spared on the side of Thunder Talk Gaming for them to pick up. And with 19 seconds left before this dragon does spawn, it is top esports Cloud Soul to claim.
So they get a little bit more. I think big one for me, no flash on Hoya and Beishuan does mean this dragon should be going over to TES. They have the gold lead to kind of back it up as well. They're going to very easily take this objective. The only kind of small glimmer of hope is, I will say, TES were not able to, I think, extract the most amount of value out from that Baron buff. The Baron buff actually just ended up being used as more so them being able to push. 1xN tries to go for the True Shot Barrage Steal, doesn't end up making it happen. It's still about 2,000 damage off. And really during all of that play, TS just barely able to get some damage on the mid lane. Tatab is just dead. That's a flash from 369.
Yeah, nice Q flash, and I didn't even realize he built a rocket belt this game, but considering the amount of champions that have so many dashes to get away from, it's a nice pickup. And meanwhile, the bombs on the map, you know, 369 was cooking on the top side, and Jackie Love just picks up another quadra kill for himself. Unfortunate for him that Satab was on the other side, as he cannot pick up that pentakill that definitely could have been his. But top esports, a statement win to come back even after such a advantageous play around that first rotation of Grubs. It's not enough from Thunder Talk, and now top esports find themselves a match point in this series.
Despite early game woes, TS are getting it done. They're saying, okay, look, we're losing out on some of these grub fights. We're also, I think their drafts are not really lending them a lot of credence. I think some of their setups can be a little bit lazy. However, they are making very good at, I think, showing off some of the level of these players without missing a beat. When we look at top esports, they kept their core of 369, Cream, and Jackie Love. The pieces that they changed out, Kanavi instead of Tien, and Crisp over Mako. So I think overall, you're still looking at a team that is trying to contend for the Dragon's Cup, or the Silver Cup here in LPL, but like their early games might be weak. I still think they are just performing at a really great level, and TT are not showing up on the day right now. It's sad to say. The Thunder Talk fans might be in the dumps right now. Kelsey might have to disappear from the chat in a little bit, regardless of what time zone it is right now, but she's going to still be a staunch defender, I think. Despite wins and losses, she had to struggle through their 2024 season. So I think a DEMACIA Cup loss is not necessarily going to go too far down the drain there.
Yeah, and we highlighted it at the top of the, the pre-show for this semifinal, that this was going to be Thunder Talk's tallest order to achieve. This is by far their toughest opponent left in the bracket, and at this point could be, the favorites to win if this is the level they are performing at. Obviously, anyone's legend got a lot to say on the other side of the bracket as they're waiting for them in that, final match in just 2 days time after besting Weibo Gaming in their own respective semifinal. But just considering the base level that top esports is operating at with the minimum amount of stage games they've played with so far, this is a great way to start the 2025 season for them.
I wonder what the look is going to be in Game 3, because, again, we're in full Fearless. We're going to have all of these champions gone. Maybe we get to have a Victor game. Maybe we get an Ambessa game. Just hoping. I want to see something a little bit spicy, and, I mean, there's just so little damage here. Everyone, almost 3 members doing underneath the 10,000 threshold. Kanavi barely doing enough damage to kind of even breach something like Hoya. This was a game that was, I don't want to say it was slow, because the time is pretty similar to last game, and I think the level of action is pretty similar, but all the fights kind of just like instantly won, and then that's it. We didn't get anything super extended, and I think that also comes at the cost of having Baseron not be on Engage. I love to see him on AB junglers. It's one of his like kind of small niches as one of the few players kind of bringing it from solo queue, but I just don't think that this is the team that necessarily requires it, and you really want to be able to index more heavily on your mid and AD carry who have been performing so far in DEMACIA Cup, but today it is just not working out for the ThunderTalk Gaming squad.
And even with this surprising victorious fight in the first rotation of Void Grubs, where Satab, beautiful stuff to pick up the honey fruit just in the nick of time to give himself such a nice advantage. It's just not enough. Top Esports, their resolve and their determination to find, you know, these advantages throughout the game is just much more persistent than what ThunderTalk can muster for themselves. And Dimitri, I'm gonna start predicting a little crazy something here. Okay. Obviously, Jackie Love, once again, should be, you know, the favorite for the MVP. 2 quadra kills this game. I don't think it should be, you know,
I think it should be Kanavi again, guys.
No. You know what? If there's any time to vote for 369, if there's any time to vote for 369, it's in this game on the Mordekaiser, because the pick itself and the way he played in the level 1, level 2 turret dive was so damn funny to me. I think it's just like that. I would be on the media vote side to, you know, just cause a little funny business, a little mischief.
I'm okay with that. I thought you were gonna cook something a little rancid there, but the food is there. I'm liking it. I'm liking what you're putting down on the table here. So me personally, I agree. I think while Jackie Love's KDA is great, we got to see him, I think, perform in a couple of these fights. I think this Mordekaiser pick added so much value to the team, and we got to see, I think, some of the great parts of 369's game, which is his ability to play really strong, or really well on weak side, and his individual prowess on some great champions that he has made his name on throughout the years.
Only time will tell, as we've put in and cast in our own respective votes for MVP. As right now, the 369 propaganda is looking pretty good right now, you know, just based on the highlights we're seeing on screen. But returning to the conversation you had about what ThunderTalk and Top Esports are going to be looking for in their potential final draft as we get ready for Game 3. So many marksman champions are now off the table. We talked about the risk of having a double marksman composition with flexing Corki to mid lane, is that you are self-eliminating, you know, more picks from what could be 1xN's, you know, third game marksman pick. Now there's what? No Varus, no Ashe, no Corki, no Ezreal,
no MF,
and no Misfortune either. You know, the Kalista seems to be a permaban this series so far, so that leaves things up like Jhin, Caitlyn, maybe if you go into the camp of hyper reset comps with like the Jinx, and lo and behold, it is Jackie Love Misfortune, you know.
Fine.
I mean, I think that one definitely more obvious than maybe the first game, you know. I do feel bad for Alk not seeing his boy Cream get you know.
Well, he didn't really do. Okay, to be fair, while Cream has some great Ahri performances in this one.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it was gonna happen for this game. But,
yeah. Like
maybe the window's now passed.
It was definitely last game. Maybe in this third game he can grab it for us. But congratulations over to Jackie Love for being able to pick that one up. And this could be our match point here. This is our match point. This could potentially be the end of the series coming up soon, as TT are now going to have to make the impossible happen with 3 back-to-back victories up against Top Esports.
Well, ThunderTalk, if there's any team you want to look to inspiration, 2015 Cloud9 Gauntlet run, you know, backs against the wall, make that reverse sweep happen for the ThunderTalk fans in the chat and watching at home. And for Top Esports fans, you might get an early bedtime tonight, but, you know, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Game 3, we'll be right at there. Boom! What's up? Sorry for punching you there. I promise it
I
was
would
out.
have done the fist thing.
Oh,
now I feel
hang on. Reset.
No,
You know,
my
okay.
God,
Here we go.
you
Here we
wanna
go.
Transition back out.
Yeah.
Come on,
Here we go. Boom. Okay. We did it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Game 3 between Top Esports and Thunder Talk Gaming is about to begin. Draft phase will be starting shortly. And for us, you know, there's a lot to really speculate and kind of get our insights going for what champions are going to be really on the table. Because now with 2 rounds of Fearless Draft, so many of our typical power pick champions are no longer available for either team to grab. And this is where, you know, the advantage of Top Esports pulling out some of these niche pocket picks like the Mordekaiser is really playing into their hand, because if you're banning the same champions over and over again, one of these other champions that has been, you know, unavailable for either team is now going to slip through the cracks.
I know we're gonna have a fun game here because I was promised by Kelsey Moser we were gonna have 4 games today. So I know,
snap.
Yeah, I was promised 4, so that means I'm looking forward for TT to pull out a huge surprise victory here. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I'm excited to kind of learn alongside the broadcast and alongside chat as to how TT can pull off what I don't want to say is a miracle, because I will say DEMACIA Cup in terms of stakes is not the most high. I think a lot of it is the fact that the bracket stage you get to play on stage, so for maybe newer players or some of the LPL teams, they get to have some really cool stage games, which they do have during their regular season, which I'm just super jealous of, obviously. I think the fact that LPL gets some really cool products as well is awesome, but for this one, I'm kind of wondering what this TES roster is going to be able to look like over the next couple days, as not only do we have the quarterfinals, we have the semifinals that are happening right now, and then if they do end up winning this game, they go on to the grand finals. This is our peek into the future of LPL 2025 alongside what is going to be a really crazy format going into next year.
Yeah, I wish I could show the audience this lovely illustration that
it's
you
terrible.
drew up
Do
for
not
me.
show that to them.
No,
I
it's
hate
not
this format.
terrible. It's well, okay. I won't speak my thoughts about the format, but I'm talking about the illustration you drew me. You know, it's a very complex format, and after, you know, staring at your drawing for solid 25 seconds, you know, I was able to put it together. Now,
bro, this took me like 10 minutes to draw. You looked at it for 15 seconds. You asked me, is TT going to be a playoff team? And I said, I can't answer that question because the playoff bracket is really weird this year coming into 2025. So, I don't know. I was trying to make it easier to see if maybe we get a
and I
bit of something
appreciate
different.
that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have I have something to note here. There's no Aurora getting banned, and there's no Victor.
And look at that. Thunder Talk Gaming immediately see, you know, Bunny Waifu available for the taking. They're like, yep, that's for Tab. I don't think we're going to see an Aurora top lane unless, you know, Hoya really wants to cook into, you know, for a particular matchup. But despite the nerfs that she has received in terms of the engage range of that between worlds, it is still a powerful tool to make those picks happen. And, I mean, the laning phase itself is just such a nightmare to deal with, and she's so slippery to try and lock down. And with things like Vi and Sejuani already gone within this Fearless format, there's not many junglers that have guaranteed lockdown that you can try and collapse onto this Aurora. So Kanavi says, you know what, I think it is time to go for the Monkey King and add some of that team fighting power with the Cyclone. And it's just going to come down to making sure that the rest of Top Esports don't really need him on the map for any gank setup until then.
They're just gone, right? We were talking about having to play in a Fearless format. You don't have the Vi anymore. There's no Sejuani, there's no Maokai, so I like the shout that you're giving there. No hard lockdown here coming in for TES. Their composition already kind of providing a lot of crowd control, so I want to see what damage they're going to have to complement this. And Basejuan and Sitab, I'm assuming this Aurora is going to be mid, although we have been seeing it flexed into the solo lanes, up into top lane. Between these two, this should be a really competent 2v2 that I'm looking forward to, whether or not they can actually leverage into early game advantages. Now, TES answering with a Victor on the opposite side. I'm really wanting to see from TT in an early game in a series where so far the first 8 to 10 minutes for them has actually been really well played, to apply pressure onto Kanavi and Cream, make sure that Cream doesn't get off the ground running with this Victor, and then set up for potentially, again, either playing for those grubs like we've been seeing, or maybe even a change up in strategy, because they haven't actually been able to really kind of turn the grub wins into actually, I think, pushing the state of the game in a more meaningful manner versus TES.
Yeah.
I think you might have to make the adaptation mid-series saying, look, the series may not have to come down to us split pushing. I don't think we're going to try to win the map versus them. Let's just play around team fights and kind of play more around the style that brought us here to the semifinals.
And as we're heading into, or actually already halfway through the second round of bans, a couple of the marksmen that we noted that might have been pretty ideal for 1xM to pick up, gone from the table. No Caitlyn. Good note of the Xayah also being taken away from JackieLove as a pretty notable champion to try and dodge a lot of these engage tools with that Featherstorm. I'm curious, the fact that ThunderTalk have pretty much fully shown their cards when it comes to the top side of the map. This gives, you know, Top Esports the ability to save JackieLove a counter pick of choice, which you normally don't say often for marksmen in, you know, in League of Legends competitive meta, but this is one of the few times where you tell 369 like, hey, do you have an answer for Gnar right now? And if he says yeah, lock it in, and you can get really spicy with JackieLove's marksman of choice.
Let's go, Mark. Flex those muscles. That's what I like to hear, brother. Let's go.
Oh my goodness.
And it's Jin. All right. Well, you kind of
Hey.
just did part of my job here. So if there was going to be a Jin, I was going to say we can bring in Lennon. Mazelle's already kind of waiting in the wings anyway, kind of helping us do socials tonight. So if he wants to be here to talk about Jin, I'd love to give him the stage. 'Cause I hate that champion. So, look, it's just what I think the big focus when you look at the second phase of bans, 480 carries. Aphelios and Caitlyn taken away. I think mostly the Aphelios being 1xN's most played champion in his career. And then the Xayah and Kaisa, they want to take away tools from JackieLove to have a little bit more safety and give him some tools to be able to peel for himself. So I like this. A strong bottom lane pair with this Jin and Bard. And despite no Braum being picked up here, the Bard being an answer into either the Victor or stopping the Orin is a really creative pick, something that we've started to see more and more in this tournament coming out from our supports.
All right, JackieLove, what's in the gumbo pot? What are we cooking up? And Sivir, wow, I'm not gonna lie, not the most exciting, you know, playmaking marksman that I was thinking of. I was gonna try and see if I could get your opinion on if, like, can Vayne exist in this, but, you know, it doesn't. I'm not sure if, yeah, I'm not a marksman player, so, you know, I don't know, like, what really feels ideal with so many marksmen already off the table, and, you know, if you want to balance both safety and, you know, damage output. But, you know, JackieLove with the Sivir pick, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, is more of a selfless pick, because you are enabling your team with the ultimate and just giving things like a Wukong and a Victor more movement speed to navigate in this team fight.
Yeah, so Sivir, I think the way that you kind of described her is a really kind of, I think the most obvious and something more of like the low-hanging fruit of how this champion works. She applies movement speed to her teammates with her ultimate. She can clear waves, which allows her to be one of the best AD carries to just sit in mid and wave clear and allow your team to kind of make plays on the sides of the map. But for JackieLove, and with Sivir receiving, I think, a really like a really disgusting amount of buffs just back to back to back when you look at her patch history, she can be a bit of a poke champion. I know there was some experimentation over the last like year and a half about like a lethality build. It's been kind of on the fringes as to whether or not that's actually real or not. And even just her regular on-hit crit build can be really dangerous, and something that someone like Jin actually ends up struggling with. And one of the reasons why even Static Shiv was very popular was that it gave Jin not only the ability to proc his Deadly Flourish, but also ease some of those wave clear woes that you would have from Jin very early on. But I mean, for JackieLove, it's going to be them trying to push this wave in, and I want to see whether or not they're really going to be playing for a dive on a bottom lane, or allow for Crisp to also match someone like Feather's Bard on the map, and see if they can make plays around some other lanes.
I think the other thing I think about when Sivir has been meta, or at least very strong in previous metas that we've seen, is usually when a lot of the other champions that are kind of in the fold are either relatively short range or melee heavy, because then your boomerang blade gets so much value. I don't know if this is the most short range hindered on the side of Thunder Talk, because there's two relatively melee champions with Xin Zhao and then Meganar. I'm just curious if, like, Jackie Love, how much difficulty is he going to have navigating these team fights, or if it's one of those cases where his contributions does not matter. I'm
just gonna say he has, even if by accident Jackie Love does not do enough damage, he can just press W and he can just be there, and he will rack up some DPS numbers.
Sure.
And the big thing for them is going to be, first of all, getting Cream all of his evolves. That's going to be a really important mark. So we need to be seeing Cream getting last hits on minions and also being really participatory in a lot of early fights. But they have enough damage, I think, from the side of TES. You have the Ornn for setup. You have Crisp as well. I think with a Wukong and a Victor, with a Sivir alongside that, I think this team is really well balanced to allow for upgrades, and specifically to get Cream his upgraded ultimate to kind of expand across a team fight. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. As we get into this game, however, we're about 2.5 minutes in. Seeing a lane swap immediately here. Finally one where it is just a full-on commit to the lane swap. Jackie Love picking up all this wave alongside his top laner, and a large amount of focus towards his bottom lane as Feather and 1xN are going to crash this wave. I don't think 369 is going to be allowed to TP to this play, even with Chris being here.
Yeah, it's a 4-man strong push from the side of Thunder Talk. I think Top Esports are just calling this audible and saying it's a little too dangerous to TP in. Just as I say that, they're going to go for it, and Chris will emerge from Fog to try and see if they can pull off some of that magic we saw in the second game. Already, Beishuan has to dip from the stacking turret aggro, and now it resets. Thunder Talk waiting for their moment to wait for those cooldowns, get them back up. Good charge, but Beishuan dodges out of the way before the Ignite eventually gets him, but it doesn't because he flashes over the wall, and Chris cannot get another bit of damage to finish off the kill. And this time, learning from their woes in that second game, Dimitri, Thunder Talk pull off a clean dive.
Let's go! They did it! They actually were able to get the level 2 dive, level 3 dive off there. They get gold for themselves. They get 2 plates from this bottom lane. And that's not to say the same for Jackie Love and Crisp. Obviously, Crisp making his way down here. 369 loses out. I'm going to be honest. I love lane swaps as a theory. As for the fun of the game and actually being able to play a video game even at a professional level, I feel so bad for top laners. These guys are 0 CS at 4 minutes almost. They get to very infrequently actually play League of Legends, especially in the last couple of years with what the role has been. Ever since they even put in Void Grubs, they kind of had to be like, okay, well, top lane doesn't actually matter in the game, so we have to add an extra objective to kind of pull the map away from bottom lane. This is mostly just my speech and draft to try to bring some more justice to our solo laners.
I like the pathos, angle you're going for, because, when we're trying to convince, someone who is a defender. Hang on. Setab is in trouble, and Kanavi just has too many dashes to be able to keep up with Setab despite the flash. And it's just a well-timed gank. Cream had that wave in a very difficult position for that Aurora. And he had just used teleport a couple minutes ago here, Dimitri. So that is going to make Setab's life even harder, as now he is falling behind in experience against this Victor.
And that's some of the Victor bucks we were talking about.
Ka-ching!
Got himself a little bit more of an upgrade. They did change, so for people who are maybe at home and they're like, why is there a new Victor icon on my screen? This is another instance of Kanavi. So he does get spotted. Setab knows he's on this side of the map, and yet I don't think he really has an option. I think maybe preferably he kind of walks towards the top side of his lane, maybe not necessarily looking at his mini-map at the same time, showcasing some of the smarts of someone like Kanavi. Kanavi being really, really in tune with where enemy vision is as well. We saw that, I think, in the first game played really, really well.
Yeah.
But how much of New Victor have you actually read?
Red?
Yes.
I know that his ulti now gets bigger as the team fight goes on. I think it's like...
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe with how many kills you get in a fight.
Yeah, so they changed some of his numbers. They gave him a little bit more damage. He picks up stacks a little slower from his passive, and more so kind of looking towards getting him to fight early on instead of farming cannon minions. But the big one for them is going to be the fact that the ultimate, once it's fully upgraded, gets larger as you get more takedowns, and it has a longer duration when you do get takedowns. So it gets larger and larger. We're having our first fight over the Grubs. Cream is over here and has hit level 6, so this is a tough spot for TT if they want to commit any more.
And so clutch for top esports. Beishuan was trying to get that smite on the second Void Grub, but I think Cream got the last hit on it, so just a little bit of a miss smite from the jungler Thunder Talk. They get 2 grubs for themselves, and Satab is not going to be in so much trouble that he's going down a second time this game, but no flash does make it difficult for him to endure in this lane now that Cream has already been accelerated thanks to the efforts of Kanavi.
Man, tough spot, especially with that first blood it gave over level 6 first attack, still not being able to hit it. He'll get it on this wave, but it cuts out so many of the early advantages that I think TT were kind of looking for. We haven't seen this Bard really get a roam off. Stab's just going to get solo killed here.
He pops the Between Worlds, trying to play off of the pressure from Feather, but the fact that Kanavi doesn't really contribute much to the fight other than just the sheer presence of him being able to step in as a second man is enough to force Satab and Feather back off, trying to fight for control of that minion wave, but Satab is forced to concede it for now, as now Crisp and Kanavi are going to threaten him under the tower, and it looks like Crisp could have actually just solo killed him by himself, but making sure to donate that kill credit over to Kanavi, making this Wukong even more accelerated.
Now Hoya has to back off because they know they cross into the top side of the map. TES just make it look easy right now as they are just bullying Satab out of the mid lane. They'll take control of the top side jungle and at the very least take the blue buff. I wonder if they'll try to overextend more to really secure Jackie Love a couple more waves and give him some more gold coming up to this dragon fight. I mean, we got Void Grubs as well in 2.5 minutes. This is looking good, especially for TES, who so far in this series have had 2 early games that not really go their way up against Thunder Talk.
And this is probably the best early game we've seen out of top esports so far, as they've been able to deflect a lot of the pressure that Thunder Talk has been looking for. As we're getting... Is that what they're calling out? Oh my... That is so disrespectful!
Oh my god, these servers are very
based! That's so based! They're just pretty much calling out Beishuan's like, why are you going for this control ward when you clearly need to help mid lane?
Yeah, man, walk mid. That dude, okay, low key, Beishuan just did a Raafaa impression for everybody at home. If you ever get to play with this guy,
that's
like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for the grubs here. I'm gonna go for my crab here. Oh, Beishuan uses the ultimate, is able to get out from the rest of the team, but that's gonna be an ult missing for the upcoming grubs fight. And
Listen,
his mid laner, rightfully so, mad that my jungler just left.
Listen, I had to put up with Azale flaming me on the LCS broadcast for 2 years, just throwing in strays. And oh, come on, man. Leave me alone.
There is no justice, no peace out on these rifts.
And it's definitely no peace for Satab, as he can't even get a crumb of the minion wave as Kanavi and Crisp come in straight in and bullying him away from the tower. It's 369. He's going to endure himself against Hoya. Now that there's no CC from this Mininar, he's going to just throw out the Call to Forge God. I mean, 369 definitely looked like he was in trouble, but now Kanavi and Crisp, they surfed on over to mid lane, pushed Satab out. They're going to do the same to Hoya. Not necessarily in lethal range, but just the pressure alone will force him away from being able to continuously harass 369.
You thought you were safe coming over to LPL English, like I would.
You know, man.
You're lucky, by the way, because you literally. I think this is more so like karmic justice after that first broadcast you did with Cubby, where you were just flaming. You were dogging him for like 3 hours straight. I'm look. This is just the world come back to karmic rebalance you, okay? This is only how this works now, okay?
You're standing up for the color casters on the LPL broadcast. I get it.
So we've got grubs coming up. I think it's a tough fight. Cream has literally a full level. He's about to hit level 9 here, and Satab's only breaching level 8 now. So really big advantage here for TS's mid laner. They now have the level 6 for their support. I'm going to be looking for how they can play this as Jackie Love. If he survives this, it is a massive win for TES, as now ThunderTalk are not really in a great position to help contest for these grubs.
And Beichuan might be in trouble here. Still has Flash available, throws out the Crescent Guard, pushes Crisp away, and forces him to battle dance back to safety. A teleport is coming in from 369, but he's on the other side of that wall. He's gonna try to take up as much of it, but he is forced to flash after losing more than 75% of his HP. Second rotation of grubs. 2 have been picked up by Top Esports, so now they've secured 4 for themselves. ThunderTalk, they need to escort Beichuan into range so that they can look for it, and it's actually 1xN that gets the 4th bullet, but the fight emerges and erupts, and Crisp is the first one to fall. A good-tempered fate stops Kanavi in his tracks and tries to dissuade any moment for Top Esports to look for the further engagement. Kanavi throws down the Cyclone, but flashes already came out from the side of ThunderTalk, as now the curtain call looking for one more bullet, but it's not enough to finish off Jackie Love, and ThunderTalk somehow stand tall in the fight.
What a messy fight here from both of our teams. It turns into a couple kills here for 1xN. I don't know why we're ever teleporting into that play from 369. His ult was no longer available. Hoya still had Meganar. I just think that TS looking for way too much in there, and I want to take a look at how this kind of plays out. So Chris was able to kind of get the immediate ult out from Beichuan, which is great. 369 enters. He has no ultimate. He doesn't even bother to try to use the flash early to get away. So now there's no real front line for this TES team. And kind of watch how much damage 1xN is able to do. I mean, he's kind of just posturing around. They're able to get those grubs here. And it's only around this choke where I think Cream on this champion can actually do any kind of effective work. And for everybody at home, I just want everybody to see what Kanavi does here. So, flash, ult, nothing. Alright, cool. I need some jungle justice after that game 1 Pog steal.
Well, there's still a chance for potentially Cream to pick up an MVP this game if he finds his moment on this Victor. He's been building up a small gold advantage thanks to a lot of the resources being put his way. He didn't get any of the kill credit on Top Esports in their, 2-3 picks that they've made so far. Most of the gold has gone into Kanavi's pocket, which has allowed him to be able to pick up this Trinity Force so early on into the game. But Top Esports, they're not running away with the game just yet. ThunderTalk, the fact that they were able to find a decent advantage despite, losing a majority of the grubs this game, gives them a little bit of reprieve, and we have the second dragon of the game spawning not at any time soon, still another 4.5 minutes to go, whereas Rift Herald could be the next play, but Top Esports seem to already have a lot of their members in position for it.
Thankfully for TT, this is not a squad from the Top Esports side that is really concerned about playing for side lanes or necessarily kind of pushing the boundaries. It is going to turn into some more gold here as the plates start to fall. Cream getting his another plate for himself. He'll also be able to recall, finish his first item. This right now, this Herald fight is probably the best it's going to get for ThunderTalk. I don't expect for TES to look to try to contest this right now. I think there are really big item spikes coming in for ThunderTalk, and if they can grab this Herald for themselves, I do want to see them use this, move into mid, and if they're not going to use it on mid, maybe we look on side lanes, we get Satab back in this game, because as much as I would love to accelerate some of the carries, I think for this game, you really, really want Satab to actually be a contributing member of the team. And I don't know if 1xN is necessarily at the point that he is so far ahead that he can kind of overwhelm or overcome that disadvantage.
Yeah, Collector Rush and 3 kills to this Jhin allows him to deal with the squishy members on the Top Esports. But this build is not going to fare so well against 369 the later the game does go on. As we know, historically, Jhin into tanks, unfortunately, not always the easiest to deal with, and so it all rides on ThunderTalk being able to now use this advantage from the Jhin to be able to give a little bit of that acceleration and love back into other carries as teleports are coming in.
Okay, both top laners are coming in from different sides of the fight. 1xN is currently farming in mid, but this Herald is almost down, and there's no jungler in the area.
Oh, really good Tempered Fate. Cream could be the target here. Here comes Call of the Forge God as it splits up the fight. Kanavi secures the Rift Herald, but someone needs to walk over and pick up the gem, but they're going to turn for the fight first.
Ooh.
Kanavi and Chris finding their way through the front and the back line as Top Esports now seem to have the majority of the fight on their side, but my screen is frozen, so we're going to see if we can jump back to live. As now we are back. Cream flashing forward, looking to pressure 1xN, dodging out on the Feather Flash, but the Cosmic Binding does not get locked up right in between those two towers. Is now 1xN looking for that base, should be safe. Cream just making sure that the rest of the red side jungle quadrant is up for the taking, but he's just going to walk on over to the bottom side of the map. And I imagine, Dimitri, even though we missed the second half of that fight, Top Esports taking the win on that one.
Thankfully for us, we will hopefully get this replay, as I love the look here from Feather, but no one's in position to deal damage. So the ultimate from Bard just turns into, okay, we're waiting for 1.5 seconds. Now we're coming back into this. 1xN is trying to fire away, but Chris is locking up the back line. You have this incredible DPS coming in from Jackie Love and Cream, and it just turns into a huge win for Top Esports. Kanavi eventually gets the Rift Herald. That was my big worry as well. I was like, okay, cool, you finished it. But there's this massive fight where you actually don't even get to walk over to it. So they win the fight, they get the Herald, they win the objective as well. TES finally come into a game where the first 15 minutes do go in their favor. They get the advantage on the grubs. They grab themselves the dragon as well. And it's just looking more and more likely that we're going to have a sweep here in the semifinals as we look to crown a second team to go to the grand finals like in a couple days' time.
Yeah, 4,000 solid gold advantage for Top Esports at 17 minutes into the game. Second dragon of the game spawning in the next 35 seconds, and Top Esports already have their pieces set in order to take that without any contest from Thunder Talk. This wave pushing into the tier 1 turret on the bottom side of the map. That shall be knocked down eventually here. Cream just taking his sweet time with it and making sure that Thunder Talk have no realistic way of being able to safely get vision down so that they can make this entrance. This should be a fairly easy macro take for Top Esports.
So for everybody at home, for any of our would-be potential observers in the future, especially with a champion like Victor, because we don't have the stacks or how many times he's been able to upgrade, we only can really tell by looking at his abilities when he uses them. I would like to see in the future more target framing of Victor, because we're looking at Cream right now. On the bottom left, you can kind of see all his little abilities that are up, his summoner spells. I want to see how many Victor bucks he has. I want to see, does he have any upgrades coming up soon? Are all of his abilities ready and he's just waiting to get his level 16 or his second point to be able to put more into his ult? That's what I want to see. We got a dragon starting here now though, as 269 is nowhere in the area.
Tempered Fate just pushes Cream off to the side. Kanavi flash over the wall, Cyclone right onto 1xN. That forces his own flash away, and he is completely out of the fight, but he's got a curtain call. He's going to fish for some bullets. Cream has to stand behind the rest of the front line, and he should be relatively safe unless he can bend it like Beckham around the front line. Woohoo! That was surprisingly a little close for comfort there, but Jackie Love is the one that absorbs the bullet. And 369 wasn't even there at the fight, still has TP, was just pushing on the top side of the map pretty comfortably, and now we got a second teleport, or just a teleport in general, coming in from Cream. They want this turret, and they're going to pressure Satab off of it. Or maybe not so much, unless they force it. Okay.
5 grubs? 4 grubs? Okay, we're TPing. We're fighting for this, boys.
Well, Call of the Forge God does knock him up, but Satab jumps in with the Between Worlds, gets a decent slow and damage off. Hoya needs to go into Mega Gnar form if he wants this fight to work out, but Crisp is looming around the shadows. They get the animation canceled for the Mega Gnar fully off, but Crisp predicts the hop back from Satab, provides the knock-up, gives the alley-oop 369 to dunk his face on, and Cream picking up the kill on the Hoya. And I don't know, Dimitri, this looks pretty done and dusted for Thunder Talk. They are now 5,000, almost 6,000 gold down in the hole. Top Esports are just seeming to run away with this one.
They contested a dragon that was never going to be theirs. It's also second dragon in 19 minutes. Just don't think it's a real objective to be fighting for. The Bard ult never lands. Then they go top lane. TT just look out of it. They don't look like they're going to be necessarily a huge threat up against TES, and this is just going to be a victory lap in my opinion. I think from the perceived morale right now, Thunder Talk, it is just not looking good. I don't think they're making great calls around the map. They're losing 2v2s as well. It goes from bad to worse. You have to think about the scaling that this TES roster has. You have the Ornn giving out upgraded items. We've already been talking about Cream on this Victor. it's just not a great look and sad, I think. But I want to kind of memorialize, if this is going to be the last game for TT, what a great run they've had throughout this tournament so far. Even though, you know, TES, again, an expected favorite coming into this tournament, ThunderTalk, I think, have put up a great run up against some other teams here and even making it to the semis.
And Top Esports are going to continue hammering in this advantage as they look for the dive. Feather tries to prevent the dive from happening and stalls some time with the Tempered Fate. It does buy Satab an escape out as he uses the Between Worlds to jump to the other side of that ring. And Top Esports don't manage to find an additional kill for themselves, but 7,000 gold now being able to pick up after the second tier turret collapsing. And, you know, for Top Esports, I think for them, this is, as you already put it, they're just setting up the dominoes ready to knock down eventually. Unless ThunderTalk, you know, finds some type of, you know, miracle fight where I feel like it is more on Top Esports to mess up rather than ThunderTalk to execute perfectly on.
I do want to give some flowers as well to Top Esports. We've been kind of playing up TT a lot just because they are a home crowd favorite. We have a lot of great fans, and they are an underdog team making it so far to the semifinals. But TES, only 2 games prior to the series, they played in the quarterfinals. They absolutely demolished IG and the Shy rookie roster to everybody's chagrin. So we're looking at TES to not only bring home a DEMACIA Cup win, but I think in general, bring home one of the cups here. When we're talking about LPL, they haven't been able to win since summer of 2020. Still had Jackie Love. They brought in Kanavi and Chris to hopefully level up the team and bring a level of consistency to the roster, some higher highs for the squad. And they were able to finish with they had some pretty great finishes in the last year, but just not really able to kind of crest the hump at that point. So I think for Top Esports, this is a roster that is definitely looking to make a splash and try to win at least one of the splits that we have, since we are going into a 3-split system.
Top Esports are itching for a fight in this blue side quadrant. ThunderTalk do a decent job of being able to disengage from anything that could have been potentially game-ending, as we're 22.5 minutes in here. Death timers are not extremely long, but with how close they are to unlocking the base and where the minion waves are, a couple of kills could have been enough for Top Esports to completely just take the entire base of ThunderTalk Gaming. As for now, they hold the ground and they make sure that Top Esports are not in a position where they can just rip the Baron on sight. They are gonna take their time and instead play for the 3rd dragon of the game, as 369 getting a decent chunk. Is he just gonna solo out Hoya? Oh man, if we're at this state in the Gnar and Ornn matchup, I don't know what else to say. It's that saving grace for Hoya. He tries to occupy the minion wave, but you know, before that death, he was only a Trinity Force and half components on that Black Cleaver to a 2 fully item completed Ornn, and that just seems too much to handle.
Yeah, especially if we're at that stage. So looks like Victor has upgraded his abilities, so we are getting a really strong Victor. It's going to be something that's going to be a bit of a terror, and I just don't think there's much that TES can do wrong in this game right now. They are so far ahead, even though it's only 7,000 gold. You have to think 3 dragons, multiple turrets, the experience differential, especially in mid lane right now. Cream being a level and a half up gives you so much room to work with as TES, and a lot of leeway if you are starting to lose, maybe a surprise fight here and there. So it's great for DEMACIA Cup. TES have not been able to win DEMACIA Cup since 2021. That was also with Jackie Love. So Jackie Love being on the roster for 4 years. It's really cool, kind of the intersection of some really long-standing players. Unfortunately, with TES losing Mako, they would have had like the trio of players that have been on certain teams or on certain rosters for multiple years. Jackie Love being here for 4 or 5 years. Kanavi being on JDG for 5 years. I think if they also had Mako, you think about his run with EDG. That could have been, I think, a lot of great fun we could have had as a narrative for the broadcast. But Mako ended up moving on to another team, and TES trying to make good for, you know, the changes that they did make to the roster. And for TT, I think that this roster should be hopefully looking to kind of make a splash, maybe in a group Nirvana sense, where they're trying to end up top 4 and make it into like a season playoffs, or working into potentially qualifying as a top 8 team.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're able to, you know, take a game off of JDG in your respective group, I think that is, you know, It's very meritable in that own sense, as Top Esports might just be making that game-winning engage, as Satab is going to throw a desperation Hail Mary attempt trying to flank the back line with that Between Worlds, and Cream is chunked out of the fight, but not necessarily in lethal range. Kanavi is trying to dodge on these bullets, and I thought that last one was going to curve, but Fog of War obscuring where Kanavi was and just barely being able to dodge out. ThunderTalk, they do lose their middle inhibitor, but they don't lose the game just yet. Down 8,000 gold. They're still in it, Dimitri.
They're in it in physicality. They're physically in the game.
Spiritually,
per the game rules and typically how advantages work, they're not in here. They are very much not in here. And that's going to be Cream almost finding a kill on the base one.
Oh, wait,
but
really good
maybe make a turn.
I mean, Cream still has a flash to work with, so he's not in any real danger just yet. I thought for a moment maybe ThunderTalk could have the movement speed to wrap around and look for a pick that could have turned the tides in their favor and really put a stun into Cream's acceleration, since he is working with that BM book now, 10 stacks on the Magi Soul Sealer, but nobody from ThunderTalk can really safely make an entrance here onto the Baron pit. Beishuan was chunked out, so this is a safe time for Top Esports to rip that Baron. Now the gold lead nearing that 10,000 gold of no return for ThunderTalk. Cloud Soul coming up in the next couple of minutes. We are practically one good fight from Top Esports to ending this game, to ending the series, and moving them into the grand finals against anyone's legend.
For sure. And for anyone's legends, they have been a team that has, I think, not surprised people, but they are a team that I think are a bit more difficult to read, especially for how well they've done so far in their semifinals and even in their group stage. They made a big change bringing in Flandre and Tarzan into the roster, and I think people were thinking, okay, is this AL team really going to be able to shape up? They probably are going to make top 8 here at DEMACIA Cup, but much past that, we don't know. We'll have to hold that question for tomorrow or in a couple days when Grand Finals is played, but TES just playing with their food right now. They're kind of fishing with some of the ultimates now. I think we're getting in that part where that restlessness starts to kick in. TES want to close this out.
Satab sends it, pops the Between Worlds, tries to look for Cream, but he gets blown up. Power of the Arcane as Top Esports riding on that anime high, as they have the Power of God and anime on their side, and it's all about strength. It's all about power, and Top Esports have tons of it in supply. Cream adding up the stacks on that BM book, reaching 25, 7-0 and 5 on the victor. Surely this is an MVP performance worth deserving and rewarding for himself. GG to Top Esports. They sweep ThunderTalk out of the bracket.
That'll be a 3-0 for one of our favorites to win the tournament, and looking forward to LPL in 2025, one of our favorites to potentially win one of the splits, go to an international, and represent the LPL in the coming year. Honestly, light work, no reaction. ThunderTalk, I'm glad that we had them. I think that the run that they had was really inspiring, but they just weren't able to kind of pull it together, and up against the might of TES, they got completely smashed. It didn't even matter if they had early game victories, if they got all the grubs, if it looked even convincing. TES just had no say about it. They're like, look, we're going to win. We're going to make sure it looks really dominant, and we're going to have some pretty great performances even past the 15-minute mark. So great job from them.
Yeah, I hope we as in me and AlkBattery here, were, honest and forthcoming about our assessment of how the series is going to play out, that Top Esports were the expected favorites. I know there was a little, hopium being spread around the campfire that ThunderTalk might have brought this to a game 4, 4 games, and for anyone that felt just as ambitious to, put a little extra adventurous spirit into, wishing for a 4th game. It's not my fault. It's not AlkBattery's fault, but we tried to tell you, we tried to warn you. And for those that, were in the same camp with us, welcome. Yeah, that's all I got, Dimitri.
It was just Kelsey, dog. I'm glad that she owned up to it in the Twitch chat. She owned up to it. She was the Hopium leader. Good. I believe for a second, because I didn't think they were going to win against LNG, and then Photic and Joe struck. So, thank you guys. but Jackie Love and Crisp got it done. I've had my criticisms. I think the international community's also had some criticisms towards Crisp for some of his kind of low lows, but this time around, I think we got a pretty even middle ground for most of the TES roster, and more so, I think, building on someone like Kanavi, because one of the strengths of this team, one of the strengths of last year's JDG, despite them not making it to an international, was Kanavi. This guy in the jungle was carrying games. He had to drag this team a lot of the time over the finish line. Unfortunately for Ruler and Missing, they didn't have the best time in the 2v2. Gao just unfortunately wasn't able to put it together with the AD champions, as they were not really kind of his style. And Sheer and Flandra spitting up time. Flandra eventually kind of takes that overwhelming starting spot, but the team just never really got it off the ground running. And Kanavi showing off why he is such a highly coveted jungler here in the LPL, why he was such a great jungler for the past couple of years. And hopefully now with this TES roster, he's able to pick up another cup, as I think there's no better chance next to just straight up joining BLG for him to make a splash here in the next 2025 year.
Yeah, this was practically the next best option outside of BLG for him to be, picked up by. But considering that BLG made it all the way to grand finals, all the way to game 5 against T1, the reigning world champions, back to back, I think Kanavi making the best of his situation. And even though this wasn't JDG, this was the team that beat JDG in order to get here. And, it's not the most, direct way of, Kanavi being able to say, you're missing out on, replacing me or dropping me. But, obviously we will get a chance for a potential revenge match for Kanavi as we get further and further into the LPL spring season next year, maybe when we do actually have a top esports versus JDG. But for anyone that might have had doubts about how well Kanavi was going to perform on a new roster, I think those doubts can immediately be alleviated.
If 369 and Cream are my laners, I'm feeling pretty good. Jackie Love as well. I'm feeling I'm going to have always bot prio. I know my top laner is going to be a solid rock up in that lane. I know Cream is going to have some excellent performances as long as those 2v2s. The most impressive game for me was game 1. The fact that we got to see that Vi and Akali game from those two. That 2v2 can be so dangerous if they can get a little bit more time. We see some more interesting mid lane kind of picks, because Victor doesn't inspire a lot of early action for me anyway. So great game all around. Last bit of hurrah for TT. You 3-0'd in your group. You did have an old man league team in your group, so that's one free win. You played up against a JDG who were just not really awake, unfortunately. That roster with Schwinn and Scout Gollop, they didn't really get much done. Kind of sad to see, but hopefully coming into the LPL 2025, that JDG roster is actually starting to kind of get the ball rolling and get things going for them. But DT, I think, had a really great DEMACIA Cup, and while not winning, I think can still, for some of these players, still feel a little bit proud with where they ended up.
Yeah, and I think we can still, look back fondly on some of the early game plans that they pulled out at the beginning of the series against top esports. Granted, this is still a team that has had very small amount of stage games together, and Thunder Talk didn't waste it. And lo and behold, I don't think there was any doubt of who was getting the MVP, but we've been,
should have been Akali. Should have been Akali. Just saying. Should have been Akali.
Justice for Akali, but you know what? Cream does get it done with the victor. The Medjai Soul Stealer being at 25 stacks, pretty hard to overlook. I'll give a shout out to Crisp. I think this was by far his best game in the series. The Rakan engages, and him just being able to enable so many dives and so much pressure just gave much more breathing room for top esports in general. But we did it! Semi-final in the bag, and last, or not quite last day of DEMACIA Cup in the books here, our second to last day, as we are 2 days away from the grand finals, where we now have our top esports and anyone's legend matchup set in stone. So, before we sign off, any closing thoughts for you, my friend?
I just want everybody to know, if you've been watching Cream for the last 2 years, I think it is a highway robbery that he gets a MVP vote on a mage champion, not Akali. That's all, folks. I think I've said enough about top esports and TT for today. So thank you, everybody, for who's able to kind of be here for the show. Thank you to Raafaa as well for being able to commentate alongside us. Chippy on production, and for everybody else that was doing socials. The show is not possible without people that are volunteering their time, and also watchers like you typing in Twitch chat with your very silly 7TV emotes.
Spam XPP for us. That's
yes,
all
please.
I ask. You know, it's still the holiday season. 07s as well in the chat. Thank you all so much for supporting the LPL English broadcast as well. And we'll be seeing you in just a couple days' time. Until then, stay safe, stay warm. Happy holidays.